What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Tuesday show, everybody. Good to see you here nice and early. Getting an early jump on a monster 12 gamer today. Lot to go through. No Gundacker today to help us through the slate. It was a blast yesterday chatting through that 7 gamer with Gun. Felt like we nailed it. Up and down, left, right, and center. On the mound, at the plate. Lot correct on yesterday's show. Hopefully it went well for people out there. I had some strong chaser lineups. I only played 20 on FanDuel in just the little $3 main tournament. Had a good, not great day, but a lot of chasers that were competitive late. Some Logan Gilbert lineups that just needed a little bit more. One more inning out of Gilbert. Might have gotten it over the top. But it was a fun night. Hopefully things went well for you guys. Want to shout out real quick somebody that I know things went well for last night. Our guy, Illegal Form Nation. Longtime friend of the show, friend of the site, going back to the Awesemo days. Friend of mine, I would say. Took down 10 grand, first place in basketball over on FanDuel. A little showdown. SGA, Jalen Williams, Pascal Siakam, Isaiah Hartenstein, Lou Dort, and TJ McConnell. Good for first place. Not sure if that's a chop or if that was just straight up first place in a contest with 10 grand to first. But either way, congrats, bud, if you're out there. And shouted out the projections, which was very nice of them on Twitter. If you guys get a chance to do that when you hit something, always helps me to be able to retweet somebody else saying that things went well for them. But he was nice enough to put a little screenshot in there. So congrats, Brandon. It was a great win. Greg Biancone calls out Astros crap the bet at high ownership last night. Yeah, we kind of came down on that one. That was a team that we liked a lot before the pitching change that we noticed. And then we both were like, maybe it takes the bloom off the rose a little bit. But that would definitely be one that looked better and didn't necessarily come through the right way, Greg, as you're saying. So, yeah. And I ended up still with some Astros in lineups. Like, it didn't have a gigantic impact, but it was enough to point to be like, it's not as good. But we're going right back there today because we're getting JP Sears, the guy that we originally thought was pitching yesterday. So I think we go back to the Astros today. They're currently in my placeholder. They're one of the top-ranked teams, one of the top-ranked run totals on the board. But it's an interesting slate, monster 12-gamer. We've got some really, really workable pitching and some good pitching at good prices that I find kind of surprising prices. So we'll get through that. But hi to Cujo. Cujo saying happy Taco Tuesday, gang. Wishing everybody a happy Taco Tuesday. But I don't know, man. That's inflammatory political dialogue these days, using the word taco. Not sure if you're allowed to say that anymore. Not to get too into the crazy world that's about to collapse onto itself. Let's just focus on baseball. Kenny Woodhouse is here. Anthony Taylor. Andy's here. Greg, as mentioned. Some other people in here lingering in the chat. I'm sure it'll be a little bit lighter attended at the beginning of the show here, just as people notice that we're even on this early in the day. But we got a lot to get through. So let's get into it as people find the door. Davin Roselle, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Milk the Dolphin. Yeah, I connected the names. I think you'd said that on this screen somewhere along the way. For some reason, I knew that. I don't remember where that would have been from. Good to see you, man. So like I said, it's a really interesting pitching board, especially on DK, given we've got some of the highest ranked pitchers are in the 7s. For one thing, I got to call out, I am starting 1, 2, and 3 in my Dynasty League this week. In these matchups, all 3 of those guys have 2 start weeks coming, but I'm specifically starting all 3 of those guys in the Dynasty League this week, so I really hope it goes well for them. But they just look really, really strong at these DK prices. I think all 3 guys are in play on FanDuel. Liberatore against the White Sox is a little bit more expensive than the other 2. Both Will Warren and Ben Brown at extremely cheap prices. I don't fully get it. They've been, all 3 guys, a little up and down. Will Warren and Ben Brown have both been excellent strikeout pitchers this season who have spiked big scores. Really kind of baffled by that spot. I've also got Casey Mize going against the Pirates in the earlier afternoon slate. So it's going to be a really interesting week for the Dynasty team, chasing some innings pitched with 2 start weeks this week. Devin nails it. Happy politically correct Taco Tuesday. Yeah, just so much going on that one jumped out at me, and I had to make a stupid joke. But yeah, obviously we're not getting political. That is not what we do around here. If you want those thoughts, you can follow my other Twitter handle, which is currently just retweeting a bunch of stuff, but a lot going on. Anyway, in addition to those three being incredibly good-looking values on this slate, I think you've got other options that kind of fall into similar buckets. Like a really struggling Brandon Pfaadt has gotten extremely cheap at 6,800. It's a bad target Blue Jays lineup, but that's interesting. David Fest has got plenty of talent to beat that Cincinnati team, find some Ks for a cheap price. We'll get back to this in a minute. But there's a lot to work with pitching-wise, including an appealing top end. It's probably a slate that's more broad than it is tall, I would say, on the mound. But getting into things here, Angels and the Yankees, a 9-run total in the Bronx. Yanks getting most of it. 5.53 implied total for them. As much as the Yanks kind of went out and did not come through yesterday against Jose Soriano, there were reasons that Gunn and I talked about why that very much might have been the case. Those reasons mostly go away against Kyle Hendricks. So I think it's all systems go for the Yankees here. They look pretty tremendous. Top-ranked team on the stacks board, one of the highest implied totals on the slate. I believe they're either number 1 or number 2 in the power index as well. Giancarlo Stanton was swinging the bat pretty well. He hit 3 balls over 100 miles an hour last night. So, yeah. Fire away with Yankees. On the Angels side, they're going up against Will Warren, who I was just saying I like the upside for him. He had a couple bumps in the road along the way, most notably a terrible game against the Dodgers on the 31st, but the Dodgers quite a bit better than the Angels. Plenty of strikeouts here. He's not entirely safe. Might give up a homer, a couple few runs, but should find some Ks, should work his way through 5 plus, and put up a decent start for those salaries rather. Light appeal of the Angels, just the power bats on the other side, and then some of the correlated scoring options, but a lower end team with a 3.58 implied total. The Diamondbacks with a mid-board total, same thing on the Blue Jays side, basically even up kind of a game. It's Brandon Pfaadt, it's Chris Bassett. Both pitchers, again, fairly usable options. Pfaadt's gotten really, really cheap. We know he's more talented and just generally better than he's been this year, and most recently in his last 3 starts. But obviously shaky and a low strikeout Blue Jays target. Chris Bassett pitches deep into ball games. The performances have been up and down as far as some runs allowed, as far as some low strikeout totals, but he's always at least going to be in consideration. It's just a really good Diamondbacks lineup on the other side. Kind of takes a lot of that away from me, especially on a deep pitching slate like this. So it feels like a why would you kind of a spot. The Twins at the Reds, another game with basically even totals, 4.45, 4.64. Both are very appealing for offensive upside. With those lineups in that ballpark, there's definitely some ground to be gained for bats. But don't sleep on David Festa, and same thing with Andrew Abbott coming back the other way. I think he's pitching over his head, and the ERA versus xFIP numbers will back that up when we get there. But it's undeniable what he's done this year. He's only had 2 bumpy starts, 5 earned runs 2 starts ago, 4 earned runs back on April 25th at Coors Field. Every other start has been relatively clean. Dude's coming in with a 1.87 ERA, but a 3.95 xFIP. That is a stark difference. So I think he's much more the 4-run pitcher, and this ballpark can burn anybody. So bats in play, but that might be a little bit of a 4-corner spot too. Mets at the Braves. Mets drawing a really low total, 4.04 implied runs for them. That's a low total against Spencer Schwellenbach, justifiably so. Schwelly's awesome. 9 innings, 9 strikeouts last time out. Give up 2 earned on a homer, 5 hits overall. He's had a few not pristine performances this year, but has been generally very good, coming in at a 3.11 ERA and an even better 2.92 xFIP underneath. The strikeouts have been good and kind of on the rise. In 3 of his last 4 starts, he struck out at least 9 with 211 strikeouts games there. Mix in a 4 strikeout game against San Francisco. A little bit of a weird one. But tremendous upside for him. And David Peterson, usable against the Braves, but the Braves with all that power, a lot of good righties in that lineup. Peterson's a decent strikeout pitcher, has good stuff, went 9 also in his last game, 9 inning shutout, 6 hits allowed, 6 strikeouts, but generally a tick down the board and a deadly good Braves lineup on the other side, drawing a mid-4s implied total. Mid-4s for both the Orioles and the Rays. We're just seeing offense all over this board. Dean Kramer against Zach Littell. Again, usable pitchers. Kramer struck out 8 in his last game, but he gave up 2 homers, gave up 4 earned on 5 hits, went 7 innings. There's some good there, there's some bad there. Game before that was a disaster. 5 earned runs on 8 hits over 5 1/3 at the Athletics, 2 strikeouts, no home run allowed in that Sacramento ballpark. But he's at the bottom end of the usable pitchers. Littell, a little bit better than that. Targetable enough Orioles team on the other side. We just saw Ryan Pepio smoke this team last night. I don't think that Littell's going to that level, but he could have a good day today. So I think it's another spot where we're kind of 4 corners in that game. Cardinals at the White Sox. I mentioned Liberatore looks really good on the mound to me, going up against that just bad White Sox team overall. A couple of minorly appealing bats in that lineup now up toward the top that are creating some runs, but overall they've been a pushover through most of the season. Liberatore has hit the skids a little bit. His last 3 starts have not been good. 4, 7, and 5 earned runs in 5, 4, and 5 innings. That was against the Rangers, Royals, and Blue Jays, and the White Sox are not one of those teams. They're not even half as good as those 3 teams. So I think it should be a get back, get right kind of a spot, but you can see the Sox drawing a 4.19 implied total, so not completely dead in the water Vegas-wise. Shane Smith on the mound, 4.91 implied total for the Cards. That's another weird spot where the fantasy projections kind of vary a little bit from what that Vegas total looks like. We've seen that both come through and kind of fail this year when the Cards are drawing high totals. I think we're just going to always be a little bit behind the Vegas total as far as what the Cards look like in our models. I think they're super usable. Shane Smith, gettable enough. Hasn't been a total disaster this year. Difficult to hit home runs against. So there's some downside there. The Brewers at the Cubbies. Cubs, 4.69 implied total going up against Chad Patrick. The Brewers drawing just a 3.89 against Ben Brown. As mentioned, good strikeout stuff from Brown. Definitely affordable. Patrick has been okay. Hasn't really melted down outside of his most recent performance against the Braves. He gave up 2 home runs, allowed 5 earned on 7 hits, struck out 8. But on a deep slate, feels like a not necessarily great spot to go up against one of the league leading teams in runs. 4.69 implied total for the Cubs kind of speaks for itself. The Royals standing out despite a 4.02 implied total in that game. Kind of interested in some Royals as maybe hopefully a lighter owned team. They're going up against Jack Leiter, who has been somewhat effective in spots, but also has had some shaky spots in his first 11 starts here. Still really trying to find it overall. Last time out, 4 innings, 4 earned runs, struck out 3, walked 4. That was against the Twins. I like the upside for the Royals to put the ball in play, and then we're just dealing with where things fall. Rangers on the other side of that, drawing a mid-4s implied total against Seth Lugo, who hasn't really spiked many upside games, had an 8 strikeout game over 8 innings, 3-hitter back on April 25th against Houston. That was his best game of the year, but he's also not been bad. So maybe a spot where he's a little bit usable against that scuffling Rangers lineup, but I think we side more with the Vegas side of that one. A lot of guys still hitting the ball very hard for Texas. The Devers Red Sox got their first home run from Roman Anthony on the board last night. So I guess that's a passing of the torch kind of a moment for them. Good for them. Logan Gilbert had a good outing, though, overall for the Mariners. Tonight, it's Brian Wu on the bump. Similar upside pitcher. Should have a good day against a diminished Red Sox team. 3.31 implied total for the Sox. 4.27 on the other side for the Mariners going up against Walker Buehler, who is kind of rounded into form, at least in his last start. 7 strikeouts, 3 earned runs over 7 innings. One before that was kind of a mess against the Yankees. One before that, 5 runs over 5 2/3. Yeah, I guess it was the one before the Yankees that I was thinking of. So a couple bad ones, actually. And then that one, 3 runs, but 7 strikeouts against the Rays is kind of a mixed bag. So maybe not necessarily rounding completely into form. I think we like the Mariners enough, but that's not exactly a standout total. It's just some good bats in that lineup. I think Wu is the major talking point in that game. Slate Ciccone on the mound for the Guardians, going up against Robbie Ray for the Giants. Ray's been mostly terrific this season. It's been very difficult to deny, although last time out when I finally got on board, he only went 4 innings against Colorado at Coors Field, struck out 5, but walked 2, allowed 2 earned runs, 4 runs total on 6 hits. So, thanks, Robbie Ray. Kind of back to not liking him, so cue the 9-inning, 10-strikeout shutout here. Guards, plenty of strikeouts in that lineup this year. 3.27 or 3.22 implied total says it all. Robbie Ray leading the slate in pitching projection. And then the Giants are going up against, like I said, Slate Ciccone. And that's a pretty gettable spot for the Giants. You should get Rafi Devers' debut today. He's expected to be in the lineup. 5 innings apiece in his last 2 starts for Ciccone. Did have a good outing against the Reds last time out, struck out 8. Wasn't terrible against the Yanks before that, but it seems like a gettable enough spot for some Giants bats. George Costanza on the mound for the Houston Astros, also known as Jason Alexander, got stretched out to 6 innings in 2 of his last 3 down in AAA, went 4 2/3 in his most recent outing, but struck out 7, walked 4, so a lot of pitches thrown. I expect he's got the upside to 5, maybe into the 6th inning as far as the depth goes. If you just look at the major league game log, it's just a few short relief outings from earlier in the year. So I do think it's a full start situation, but it's obviously dangerous, and there's no reason to go there really, with the A's drawing a 5.4 implied total against him. And then on the other side, as mentioned before, we've got JP Sears today, at least as far as I know, and it's the Astros drawing a slate leading 5.73 implied total, looking as good, or excuse me, second on the slate, 5.73 implied total, looking as good as they did at the beginning of yesterday's show. And then we round things out once again with the Padres and the Dodgers. It's Matt Sauer, it's Randy Vasquez, it's a bats oriented day here in Los Angeles. Nearly a 6-run total for the Dodgers, kind of stands on its own, and the Pods not too far behind, 4.14 implied total, but that's not exactly slate leading, so maybe a little bit lighter on the Pods, but it looks like a good enough spot for them. Sauer's not going to work too deep into the game, so I kind of like it. Hope they get a little bit sneaky, kind of like the Royals. We'll go back and rewind the pitching slate here. We do have some weather to worry about just as we tee up the full slate. It's yet another dreary, rainy kind of a day here in the New York area. If you're watching Central this morning, they were lamenting the same thing. They're over in Secaucus, a mile and change that way. But it's just been miserable around here. And it's that kind of night. There is drizzly kind of weather in the forecast, but there's literally nothing that should stop the game from playing. The Cincinnati game has passing showers, but Roth likes it for either it's going to delay and late start and be fine, or the showers will just be gone and they'll start on time and be fine. The Atlanta game, Mets in Atlanta, does seem like he's got it as yellow. Does seem like there's some rain to keep an eye on in that one. Tampa Bay, same deal as we're going to say every day from here on out through the summer, like Gunn said yesterday. It's just going to be passing showers and pop-up storms in the Florida weather environment. That came out clunky. And just typical Florida type weather. It'll pass in 15 minutes, but there's a storm every day kind of a thing. The White Sox game and the Cubs game. St. Louis at the White Sox, Brewers at the Cubs. Problematic in both spots. That does impact 2 of our cheap pitchers. It hits both Liberatore and Ben Brown. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. Roth has them both yellow-orange. He liked it better early in the day and has come kind of down toward more threatened. So that's the most important spot to watch, I think, is just what's going on in Chicago. And then we have wind blowing out where it doesn't matter in San Francisco is his final note. Thank you, as always, to Mr. Roth for his free weather reports over from RG. Oh, I forgot. We talked about the weather, but not the pitchers. So, as mentioned, Robbie Ray, standing at the top of the board. You guys know I'm not a huge fan, but the numbers have been very real this year. The walks are still a problem. Premium contact still a problem. Cleveland is a team that could capitalize on some of that. But overall, offset by several points up at the top of the board, also offset by some salary at the top of the board, but only 300 away from Andrew Abbott. I think there's a lot more upside in Robbie Ray than Andrew Abbott for almost the same price. Wu looks terrific to me at 93.95. I think if you can afford the jump from the 7s, the 8s on FanDuel, you can definitely make it and go to Brian Wu and have a lot of success. He is very, very good. It's a gettable enough Red Sox team. There is talent, but a lot of young hitters in that lineup. So I think Wu can capitalize in that spot. Already ranted and raved about Warren, Liberatore, and Ben Brown. I mentioned Schwelly when I was talking about that game overall. All those guys projected within a couple points of each other. So you can play the salary, the ownership game, the strikeout upside game there, and dance between those pitchers and allocate shares how you will. But I do think that there's a very specific cut line on Ben Brown. After him, Andrew Abbott, good as he's been, I have no real trust there. I mentioned already the difference between the ERA and the XFIP, and I think he's just much more that 4-run guy. I also think that Minnesota lineup is good enough. Byron Buxton is in the lineup today. We've got that confirmed. 98, 10,000. I'm just less interested, I guess, in Andrew Abbott in that spot. Brandon Pfaadt, very cheap, but has been terrible this year. David Festa, a lot of talent. dangerous ballpark on the other side of Andrew Abbott here. Dangerous lineup going up against him, but definitely some Ks there, and he's capable of finding him 75-72. I would rather have cheap David Festa on that side of that game, I think, than Andrew Abbott on the other side. I really think that's the case. Ciccone checks out okay. I didn't mean to do that. Or Ciccone, however you say it. He looks all right. 81-76. It's just Giants lineup now improved with Rafi Devers there. Already a pretty decent lineup. I just would think I'd rather either not be there or be on the Giants. Peterson, more than capable of getting through that Braves lineup, finding some Ks, putting up an okay score. But we're kind of tackling, we're already into like, why do we need to target the Braves there for those prices? If he was cheap, like if he was in Ben Brown territory, as far as salary, I'd be a lot more invested in that spot. I think it's playable, but not great the way it's priced. Michael Knack, I won't play Liberator till the day I die. Yeah, look, I'm taking a swing on that one for sure. He was good earlier in the year. He's melted down over his last 3, but it's such a soft spot. There's a lot of justification for it. Thanks, Monty. Monty saying great collab and show yesterday. Happy Tuesday. Let's go win something. Love it. Definitely. It was a fun collab with Gunn. We're going to try and make that happen more. We talked about it after getting off the air again yesterday. Just in loose terms, saying like, if we can't make it like once a week, a couple times a month at least, through the last couple parts of the season, and then see what happens going forward. But it's a blast to be able to just chat with somebody about this stuff, get different opinions, get him highlighting some things that I don't pay as much attention to. I just think it works really well. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of it and liked it. Power crediting Michael Knack for his Hunter Goodman call. Yeah, Goodman with 2 bombs last night. We talked about those rocks a little bit. Talia didn't come through. I think he went 1 for 4. He drove in a run. He was all right, but didn't come through with the big knockout I was looking for. Did hit the James Wood home run, though, yesterday. Did Westberg homer? That was Gunn's off-the-grid pick. And, yeah, we talked about Mickey Moniak in pretty specific terms, and he went yard, too. Might be waking up finally. Yeah, just putting good bat on ball, man. As long as you keep putting good bat on ball, I'll at least keep talking about you. Power, no. What was the note on the Dodgers? Oh, they switched that out? All these changes. Jack Dreyer now. All right. Is that an opener follower now? What are we doing there? Yeah, I think that's going to be an open. Yeah, so it's probably him for an inning and then Sauer. Reporting seems to think it's still Sauer in the bulk relief role, but all right, noted. Appreciate that, bud. Definitely has at least a little impact. Let's see, is he on here? No. Should I take the time and grab him? I'll grab him. The hell. I actually don't even need to change the date because I'm just going to. Oh, wait. They do have him on here. All right. Let me just get him. So according to Labs, his name is Jacob Dreyer, which is, I guess they call him Jack. I just got to see how this connects in. That's weird. Is this a different guy? It's not. According to I just Googled it. According to Wikipedia, his name is Jack Andrew Dreyer. I don't really understand why Labs has him in here as Jacob. That's going to be screwy. This is so not worth doing at this point. All right. Let's see. How is he listed in the salaries now? He's Jack. Of course he's Jack. All right. I'm going to switch this to Jack and we'll hope for the best. Again, so not worth doing. I believe he's left-handed. Yeah, he's lefty. All right, there's what your board is going to look like for the first inning, presumably, against Jack Dreher, who comes in with a 2.78 ERA, a 4.03 xFIP, 24% strikeouts against 10.3% walks, a 6-point projection over an inning on FanDuel, a 3-point projection over an inning on DraftKings for your 4,000. I do not think you're playing Jack Dreher. And then we're probably just going right back up to Matt Sauer here. I'm going to put back on the board, and you can see what the pods look like against him. Pretty similar. Doesn't look like a crazy impact from one to the other. It flips the lineup slightly, just based on the handedness of the pitcher there, but ignore the changes in the lineup. I'm looking at like the key guys up top that we know are going to be there, and it doesn't look all that different. Good call out, though. Important to know. Appreciate that, Cujo. Yeah, let's get Terry to the 1,000 subs mark. Working on that. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. That does actually help. Also feeds the algorithm if you guys leave comments on the videos. If you jump into the Discord and chat a little bit, builds the community. I always drop things into the Discord when they come up. All the scratches and lineup changes and so on. Anthony Taylor saying, I'm going to put it on the floor, get Terry Gunn and Ship on a big slate like this. I'm all for it, man. I would love nothing more. Got to put it on Adam's radar. I haven't spoken to him in the longest time since I left Stochastic, outside of just back and forth in Twitter likes and stuff like that, but no actual direct conversation with the guy. But good dude, always liked him. Think he's super sharp. Would love to get together on something with him and get all three of us into the mix for a big round table kind of a thing. We just need to find a day with 6 hours, in the afternoon and 4 games at night. Angels and the Yanks. We weren't completely done with the bottom of the pitching board. We're down in this territory. So we'll get into this more with the game by game. But as I was saying before in the overall the runs breakdown, there's usability, especially at price for Lugo, for Bassett, even against the Diamondbacks on the right day. Chad Patrick's at least a mixer, but I don't love him at 83, 8,000 relative to the other prices. I think he should be in the 7s in that matchup against the Cubbies, so probably gets left behind. Then we get a little bit challenged for quality, right? Walker Buehler hasn't been overly good. Seattle's offense can be good, but they're also something of a target from time to time when they're playing at home, especially. Shane Smith has kept lineups in check to a degree, but also doesn't find a ton of strikeout. 86, 85 just feels imbalanced price-wise. Lighter, I'm looking to attack, I think, with Royals bats. He is very cheap on DraftKings, and he does have talent. Littell, talented enough to pay those off against that Orioles lineup, especially the 73 on DraftKings. Just a little bit checked by projection compared to some of the top end. But you got to notice that, 25 and 12 here, 28 and 14 and a half there, or 14.3 there. It's not exactly a ton of daylight between all the way down here and up here. So I think Littell's very usable. Less so on FanDuel at the 88. It just, has more of an impact because of the price. But at this price, perfectly fine. Dean Kramer, kind of lower end version of that same idea. JP Sears feels like a no against Houston. Same deal with the bottom of the board here. It just gets ugly down there. And now, Hendo is a target for Yankees bats. Love the upside for the Yanks today. It's an interesting lineup that I'm just seeing for the first time. Jason Dominguez in the leadoff spot is weird. I don't really fully click with that. 30. It's great for DFS, 3,700, 3,000. When he's hitting from the left side against a righty, the kid can smoke the ball. 49.6% hard hits, 8.3% barrels. Strikes out nearly 30% of the time. Does draw an 11.6% walk rate so far this year. 6 home runs, 9 steals, getting on at a 324 clip with a 322 xwOBA. It's just a weird change up at the top of the lineup that I wasn't expecting, but that does serve our purposes for DFS because of how cheap he is as a direct correlated scoring piece to Aaron Judge against Kyle Hendricks. Hendo striking out 14.5% with a 7% swinging strike rate, allowing 9% barrels, 3.96% home runs. He is just a major, major target. You can see Judge at 16.34 in the home run model. Giancarlo Stanton, a couple points behind at 12.53. We talked about his elite swing. No barrels yesterday, but 100% hard hit rate. 4 plate appearances. I think he doubled and singled. Did score, didn't drive anything in, but just nice to see him back out there hitting the ball hard. 3 batted balls over 100 miles an hour. Cody Bellinger in between those two, solid option from the left side for just 46.33. He's got 9 home runs, 7 steals on the year, a 340 xwOBA underlying with a 108 WRC plus. A little bit of relief too if you consider Stanton batting behind him. Bellinger should see some pitches to hit in this combination of hitters. Really love the upside there. Yanks get very lefty-righty now, too, just given the structure of this lineup. Jazz Chisholm for 51.35 with second and third base eligibility on both sides is very appealing. Give Jazz the opportunity to take some shots against a soft tosser like Kyle Hendricks, where there's just so much contact available and so few swinging strikes, and he can mash 13.7% barrels this year. Over 168 plate appearances. He's having a good, not great season. Good for counting stats. The overall slash line needs to improve, at least on the front end, but 333 on base, a 225 ISO. It's a lot to like about Jazz. Goldie at 45.32 is dramatically underpriced against this pitcher. 7 home runs on the board, slashing 309, 368, 452, coming in with a 132 WRC plus. Everybody in this lineup well above average by WRC plus. That's a 9-man average of 142 WRC plus. Let me take Stanton out of there. Sorry. That's an 8-man average of 127 WRC plus. Pretty damn good. Austin Wells, major power from the catcher spot. 11 homers on the board this year, 235 ISO. Average at 220, 283, 455 on the back end of the slash line. We do need to improve the on-base skills a little bit. He's lost something in the ability to draw walks. He's striking out a little bit more, but making major contact, and those factors are not in play against Kyle Hendricks too much. So we're just dealing with a kid who can mash against a pitcher who's going to allow contact. Anthony Volpe is a mix-and-match quality shortstop. When we get him against a lefty, I like him a little bit more. 8 home runs, tons and tons of doubles this year. He has been effective, 241, 315, 431, creating runs 9% better than average. And then we talked about DJ LeMahieu yesterday and how he's kind of returning, or at least over 90 plate appearances. Looks like the DJ LeMahieu from 2 and 3 years ago, who was not the elite 300 or better hitter that with a little bit of power that DJ once was, but he was the capable get on base 260 kind of hitter with a 15 home run type power. And right now, I think we'll take that. 49.2% hard hits, 253, 344, 354. Creating runs 3% better than average. And again, going up against Kyle Hendricks for a really cheap price, 3 positions on FanDuel. So DJ's a really interesting mixer down there. Young's 554 implied total. Again, I believe these are slate leading marks in the power index. It was either first or second. It's up on the website over at rotoscouts.com, where you can subscribe for under $1 a day to get access to projections, the home run picks, stacks board, power index, anything else that hits the website. As mentioned at the beginning of the show, when fewer people were here, we had a $10,000 win in the NBA last night. NBA winding down. But a nice little end cap to the season for our guy Illegal Form Nation. So congrats again on that one. But those are still live. Hockey projections are live right now. Those are included for that same under $1 a day. Weekly, monthly, and quarterly plans are available. The Angels don't rank out quite as well as the Yankees, but they are going to draw some upside. They project out fairly well. Will Warren has been very good this year overall, but he's also kind of gettable. And Yankee Stadium can always burn you on that, especially when you're giving up a 9% barrel. 49.7% hard hits on nearly 92 miles an hour of exit velo. He hasn't gotten overly killed by this, 2.17% home runs, but I would say he's definitely gotten lucky to be at that level of home runs. What the unique thing is, though, he's got a 4.86 ERA, which is not good, but a 3.32 xFIP despite giving up all that premium contact. So he's actually been pitching in terms of runs allowed, worse on the surface and better underneath, but the contact is kind of the opposite of that. It's a really weird collision of factors. He also walks 10.5%, has too high a whip, 28.6% strikeouts on 10.3% swinging with an elite 30% CSW. Will Warren is just good. So 75-82 against a free swinging Angels team with a 25% strikeout rate. I will sign up for upside out of this pitcher today. If you get nailed, you get nailed. And again, the Angels are a hard-hitting bunch. You've got many guys in here with double-digit barrel rates. Many guys 40+% hard hits into the 50s. It's not a safe spot. You've got, 5 guys in this lineup now with double-digit home run totals? More than the Yankees. More guys with double-digit home runs than the Yankees are throwing up there. But at these prices, it's an elite option with Will Warren. It's not a hedge position necessarily, but I wouldn't call you crazy to take a few shares of Angels. I feel like I'll probably end up with some given how some of the better bats in this lineup project, and especially how they project at relatively cheap prices. Neto at 54.35 is expensive, but he's also very good. He fills shortstop adequately, could definitely take Will Warren out of the ballpark or have a big day. He's hit 10 homers. He's stolen 12 bases, creating runs 20% better than average this year, barreling the ball 14.3% with a 46.8% hard hit. Shanuel's an excellent, cheap correlated scoring option, especially on DK for just $3,500 at first base. That is very inexpensive for a guy who hits between Neto and Mike Trout, and they had a Taylor Ward or Jorge Soler, all the power in this lineup. He's getting on base at a 377 clip, creating runs 21% better than average by WRC+. Mike Trout is cheap at $5,000, $3,200 on FanDuel. I just don't care about the slash line, and it's fine. 227, 314, 454, and it's going to climb. It's Mike Trout. 396 xWOB under the covers after 188 plate appearances, 15.7% barrels, 53.9% hard hits, 11 home runs. Just imagine if he had been healthy for 100 extra plate appearances. Taylor Ward, mashing the ball as well. He strikes out plenty, 27.1, same strikeout rate right now as Mike Trout. Trout draws more walks, gets on base, gets involved more. Taylor Ward really struggling to get on base when he's not hitting home runs. He does, have a little bit of tarnish on him. But 4,300, 3,100, I think that's just factored into the price here. 259 ISO is where I'm focused. All the power in the world, 18 home runs on the board. Monster power bat in Yankee Stadium. Could play well. Wrong side of the plate in general, but righties can go oppo in Yankee Stadium with a lazy fly ball. Jorge Soler, 31-27, 8 home runs on the board. Really scuffling overall this season. Making okay contact, but really down for him. 10.1% barrel sure is somewhat above the double-digit mark, but it's not 12.5 from last year. It's certainly not 15% from the year before. Also, lost a lot of hard hit in that. It's reflected, though, in the home run model at just 7.23. He's come down a little bit. Still projects out okay. He's very cheap. I think he's usable because of how cheap he is, but strong arguments to be made that Trout, Ward, of course, are better, and that Joe Adell is a better option now. So it's a really interesting 4-man outfield configuration here as far as fantasy goes. Luis Rengifo, 27-24, mix and match quality piece this year. Did have a 2-home run day the other day for a big fantasy score, but has been otherwise mostly dead all season. We had a decent year with him last year, a few homers, some stolen bases. If he gets going a little bit for the on base, which is currently at 249 against a 302 xWOBA that isn't suggestive of more quality to come, maybe we get back on board. He's just cheap at second base right now. And then there's Joe Adell with his 13.9% barrel, his 46.5% hard hit, his 13 home runs over 218 plate appearances, his 232 ISO, his 109 WRC+. Who's been telling you since opening day about Joe Adell and how good he is? Keep going to it. He's only 3,400, 2,900. I kind of hate that he's hitting 8th, but it's justifiable with the core of power that they have from 3 through 6. And then mixing in Renifo as kind of a table resetter ahead of Adele and the rookie Christian Moore, not uninteresting. Moore's another high-end kid. Rapid promotion after getting drafted last year. 3,000, 2,300 at second base. Definitely appealing. Just if we're going up against Will Warren here and we want to have some Warren, am I really dipping that many times down to the 9-man from the Angels lineup? The answer is probably no. But interesting back and forth at worst between him and Luis Renifo for 300 less. I think you default to Moore on DraftKings if you're going for the 5-man and you want to get all the way down there, because then you get the at least direct wraparound back up to the top guys. So I think that makes more sense to get the hot rookie rather than going to the scuffling veteran who is disconnected a little bit more from the top spot for what his positive attributes are. Yankees bats, inexpensive Will Warren. Angels bats as just dart throw mixer, maybe some one-off for just trying to chase some home run upside, but limited as a stack. And no Kyle Hendricks. I really don't see the lane for success for Kyle Hendricks today. D-backs lineup not in. The Blue Jays is. Your home run picker of the day comes from this game. You're never going to guess who it is. If you subscribe at the site, you already know that it's Addison Barger. 10.66 in the home run model. They switch places. Love the upside. He's been crushing balls. 13.7% barrels on the season, 51.3% hard hits. It's resulted in 7 home runs, an interesting 215 ISO, 365 xWOB under the covers over 172 plate appearances. It's gotten very, very real with Addison Barger, who formerly, came in with a decent reputation for hitting the ball hard, and we'll see what he becomes. And he's really hit his stride, and he's not gotten expensive for all the success that he's seen. 122 WRC plus on the season now. He's only 3,600 on DraftKings third base outfield. He's 28 on FanDuel third base outfield. That is a great option for how hard he hits it from the left side, going up against the scuffling Brandon Pfaadt, who's given up a 13.9% barrel, 52.4% hard hits, 93.1 miles an hour of exit velo. Not only are those all 3 over the threshold that we're typically chasing, they're all dramatically over the threshold. That might be the worst 3 combination factors that we've seen over like a 14 start sample. That is ludicrously bad. He's lucky to be at just 4.52% home runs. Pfaadt is good, but he's just lost right now. 17.7% strikeouts, 5.8% walks. The one saving grace is that he's not walking anybody. Lots come through BABIP, a little batting average on balls in play. But when you're giving up this kind of premium contact, that makes a lot of sense. 5.37 ERA, a much better 4.13 xFIP underneath that. He was adequate in his last start. 5 innings against Seattle. He only gave up 2 earned runs. They came on 2 solo homers, but he only struck out 4, walked 1, gave up 9 hits to 24 batters. That's a rough outing. Game before that was a meltdown against Atlanta. 6 earned runs. Actually did not allow a homer in either of his 2 meltdowns in those 2 starts. 6 earned runs in that one over 3 innings, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks on 6 hits. But that was a much better start than his 0 innings pitched. Faced 8 hitters against Washington. Didn't get an out. Didn't get out of the first, obviously. Struck out none. Walked none. No home run allowed. But gave up 8 earned runs on 6 hits. Ouch. 3 earned runs, 4 earned runs going back in time with 1, 3, and 1 home run allowed in those 3 games. It's just been ugly. 2 3 home run games allowed this season. 2 home run games. And just all that premium contact. So I like the upside for the Blue Jays. 4.66 implied total. Certainly not as dead in the water as they are some other days. And they're cheap. You go to this team, you get Vladdy at 46, 3,000 for Vlad Guerrero. Yeah, he's not been great this season, sure. But a lot of that is just in the results-based numbers, in the outcomes. A lot of things that are out of his control. Once the ball leaves the bat, there's not much more you can do about it. Over 309 plate appearances, a 274, 375, 414. He's hit 8 home runs. Just a 141 ISO. That's the thing that really stands out is the lack of power output, the light home run total. given how hard he's hitting the ball and how frequently he's barreling the ball. 14.4% barrels, 54.1% hard hits. Doesn't strike out, draws tons of walks, 13-9, 12-9. 11.42 to lead the team in the home run model against all this premium contact. I know I don't have to sell Vladdy Guerrero to anybody, especially when he's this cheap. But the overall point is I don't think he's struggling as badly as it seems. It's just a lot of near misses, let's say. 407 xWOBA if you need a little more convincing. 127 WRC plus in spite of scuffling. Bo Bichette up top has kind of plummeted after a good start where he was looking a little bit more like himself. 268, 312, 411. Just a 144 ISO. 8 home runs, 4 steals. 366 xWOBA remains appealing. Just 16.5% strikeouts. He's also still hitting the ball very hard. 9.3% barrels, 50% hard hits. And a guy who puts bat on ball very frequently, given the low strikeout, low walk. So I think I'm a buyer at 4,200, and I'm definitely a buyer if I'm stacking Blue Jays. Those top 3 hitters are just, that's the core of who you want from this team. Alejandro Kirk is in the mix, though. 316, 357, 425, 5 home runs over 230 plate appearances. Another guy who's just mashing baseballs kind of quietly. Just a 108 ISO, just 5 home runs, but crushing the ball when he makes contact. Another guy who doesn't strike out, doesn't walk a ton. So that just kind of jibes with what Brandon Pfaadt's looking to do, which is allow you to make good contact. At 3,800, Kirk is really appealing at catcher on DraftKings. On FanDuel for 27, you could treat him like, not a back and forth first baseman with Vladdy, but you could certainly play him in util in the same lineup as Vladdy. I don't know how many times I'm skipping Vlad to go to Alejandro Kirk and mix things up otherwise. George Springer at 43-31 can be in my outfield any day. 10 home runs, 7 steals, getting on base at a 354 clip. He's carrying a 221 ISO. He's created runs 33% better than average. 17.8% barrels, 46% hard hits. Striking out a little bit more than he did over the last couple seasons, but walking way more. 18.3, 18.7 up to 22.5 in strikeouts, but 8.8, 9.8 up to 13.6 in walks. That's where the on base is coming from this year. Springer's having a nice year, and he's not really priced like it. 43 is uniquely cheap for that skill set on DraftKings. Bottom of the lineup is just kind of filled with mixers. This is the part of the lineup where you don't really want 2 of these guys in too many lineups. You just want to grab one of them to cheapen your price up overall, fill out a middle infield spot. 3,500, 2,600 at second base for Andres Jimenez. 4 home runs, 9 stolen bases. I feel like all 4 of those home runs came in the very beginning of the season. 176 plate appearances, 212, 291, 327, a 79 WRC plus. Ernie Clement has been legitimately okay. More of a contact-oriented hitter, put the ball in play, just 11% strikeouts, 4.7% walks, which is indicative of just ongoing attributes for him. He's done that over the last couple of seasons in his various sample sizes. Just doesn't hit the ball particularly hard. He had the one big day. I think he hit 2 home runs, had a monster score a couple weeks ago, but just 4 home runs on the season. But what he is doing, 292, 326, 416, creating runs at a 110 WRC plus, just kind of limited. If you look at the xWOBA, the ISO is underwhelming because, again, he doesn't hit the ball hard, but is a correlated scoring guy who puts the ball in play, perfectly fine. I just don't love him at third or shortstop on DraftKings. I very much want to put him at second base or maybe into the outfield would be okay. He doesn't have outfield on either side, but that would be the other spot I want him. So much more appealing at 27 as a second baseman on FanDuel, usable at 3,400 on DraftKings though. But like at third base, give me Barger over him every time. You can stick Barger in the outfield, go to third with Clement and still have shortstop open. Depends on what you're looking to put him together with. Will Robertson, Jonathan Klaas at the bottom of the lineup. Robertson, I got to say, I don't know too much about. Will Robertson is a 27-year-old left-handed hitter. He's halfway through his age 27 season. 191 plate appearances, 12 homers down on the farm. Last year in 464, he had 19. The year before in 412, he had 19. That was as a 25-year-old at AA. And a 26-year-old at AAA. 288, 408, 583 this year. Everything took a major jump this year. They say that players come into their prime at age 27. Maybe that's what happened to him. But I would venture to guess that it's coming into his prime as a quad A type player. And he just became 27 and a little bit better than the 21 and 22-year-olds against whom he's competing. I think he's fine. There's also, even in the jump, still was striking out at a 24.1% clip in those 191 down to AAA. Last year, 31.3. Year before, 26.5. I think that's something that probably just gets more exploited at the major league level. So far, he struck out in 2 out of his 4 plate appearances, but he's gotten a hit, driven in a run. Mix and match quality at best. And class, not much of a bat. 85 pretty empty plate appearances. Has a homer, 3 stolen bases, not really getting on base, 61 WRC plus. Brandon Pfaadt is the wrinkle here. Again, given that it's the Blue Jays, I don't think we necessarily need to tangle with it much. He projects fine for your 6,800, your 7,900. The strikeout to walk is not bad, but this Blue Jays team just doesn't strike out a lot. They're not drawing walks anyway. If we get last year's version of Pfaadt, 24.3% strikeouts, 5.5% walks, 4.71 ERA is bad, but a 3.58 xFIP is good. You can see Stuff Plus has come down nearly 10 points or more. Wasn't as bad for home runs last year, but did give up some premium contact and power. Just feels like too big a slate to really want to worry about it against it. If this team had more strikeouts, maybe we'd be looking a little bit harder. But I'm more on the Blue Jays side in that one. And then I think I come down more on the Diamondbacks side going up against Bassett. Bassett pitching to a 22.5% strikeout, a 5.5 walk rate, 3.70 ERA, 3.52 xFIP. Perfectly fine. But it's just kind of okay, fourth starter kind of level fine. 8,200, especially at 9,000 on FanDuel, to go up against the D-backs when they're drawing a 4.43 implied total with all their on-base skills, some pretty good power upside. I just don't love it. Feels like a challenging spot to draw pitching. Both pitchers are on the board. Pfaadt more for value and price. Bassett more because he's just decent. But I lean bats. Corbin Carroll at the top of the D-backs for 4,000 on FanDuel. He's hit 20 home runs. He's stolen 10 bases in 314 plate appearances, making monster premium contact. Striking out quite a bit more than the last 2 years. That's something to watch. I think that's where some of the dip in the overall performance as far as the slash line goes. But he's got a 313 ISO, a 385 xWOBA, 145 WRC plus. If we're saying there's anything to worry about here, we're very much just quibbling, and it's mostly about the batting average. Ketel Marte, 57-38 monster over 193 plate appearances, 14.4% barrels, 12 home runs on the board, a 263 ISO. He's also getting on at a 409 clip, 433 xWOBA, 165 WRC plus. Something going on out in the desert, at least with their bats. It's like they made a deal to make their bats really good at the expense of their pitching this year. It's been a meltdown on the mound. Geraldo Perdomo, 44-33. Cooled off certainly after his hot start, but he's made 304 plate appearances, getting regular time, 361 on base. He's stolen 11 bags, 119 WRC plus. Still out there doing his thing. It's just not the crazy all-star looking player that we had for a few weeks when Marte was out. I do still continue to prefer Perdomo when he was sneaky down the bottom of the lineup rather than as their regular 3-hitter now. But he's very, very usable, and he's fairly priced, 44-33. He's just a little bit lower end of a shortstop than some of the power-hitting upside shortstops, the Lindors and so on of the world. But at those prices for a correlated scoring option that leads directly into Josh Naylor, Joanny Suarez, love the upside for that and for what he does well. Naylor, 9 home runs, 355 on base, a 350 xWOB under the covers, creating runs 29% better than average. Difficult to strike out at 12.7% K, 7.9% walks. It's just how these, specific guys, again, line up against Bassett's good, not great strikeout rate, his very good walk rate, but these guys can push a little bit of additional walk. Very patient group. Joanny Suarez, 26.2% strikeout, 7.2% walks. Not necessarily a patient hitter, but a masher. 21 home runs on the board at 295 ISO. Having him at 295 and 313 ISO from Carroll takes care of a lot offense-wise. Monster bat at third base, 47-32. Love him as a one-off. Love him in stacks. Definitely a good option. 37-27 for Lourdes Gurriel. Very much in play. 10 home runs for him. 8.2% barrels, just under 40% hard hits for the cheap pricing. in the outfield, he's better than just another outfielder. Doesn't strike out, doesn't really draw walks. So you get a lot of at least fairly well struck balls in play out of Gurriel. He's been better in seasons past. He's hitting for a little bit more power this year. 177 ISO, if he's going to do the power thing a little bit more, that needs to climb. We need more extra base hits. But he's been all right, and he's very usable for DFS. Pavin Smith continues to be good. 4,000, 2,600, 273, 89, 443. Gabriel Moreno down lineup, 324 on base out of him this season, and better numbers in years past. Having a pretty decent year, 106 WRC plus out of him for only 3,300 at catcher. Really interesting. And then Alec Thomas, solid mixer, if nothing else. Counting stats, hits for decent average, gets on base, gets himself involved. Just a 92 WRC plus right now. Last year, over 103 plate appearances was bad. Year before was pretty weak. Year before that was pretty weak. So it's challenging as far as justifying it via WRC plus. But if we're just looking for counting stats, maybe a wraparound guy. He gets cheap down the bottom of the lineup. I'll go to the home team. I'll give it to Toronto. Go Canada. Go Edmonton tonight, by the way. I think it's a do or die game, right? It's 3-2 Florida, no? Yeah, 3-2 Florida. Down in Florida. Let's go Edmonton. So yeah, Blue Jays bats, Diamondbacks bats, Bassett, and then Fought only as a dart and really only on DraftKings. I don't think you go there on FanDuel, at least not too often. I would probably leave Fought in my crunches, optimizer, whatever, with a pretty aggressive cap on how many lineups per build he's allowed to get into, and then just let the sorting and simming and whatnot fly. I still trust him that much. Trust is the wrong word, but I still think he's that usable. But it's obviously not great. Twins and the Reds. Again, this one, another one coming up as easily, I think, a four corners game. And we've got so many of these today with teams just landing right next to each other in the mid fours. As we've talked about a ton, there's no real difference between a 4.25 implied total and a 4.45, or there's no difference between a 4.45 and a 4.64. It's a negligible difference anyway. We have both lineups from this game. So Andrew Abbott for 10,000 on DraftKings, 9,800 against the team with a mid fours total, against the team that's showing a little bit of power upside against him. I am not a huge fan. If he was cheaper, he was 88 over there, same over, or 91 over here, something like that. Like, he'd be more on my board. He's pitching to a 1.87 ERA, but a 3.95 xFIP. He's walked 8.2%, which is a manageable number. He's got an 11.3% swinging strike rate, which is a very good number, but only a 27.4% CSW, which neither is a good number, nor does it jibe with the 11.3% swinging strike rate. 0.97 whip with that many walks. Probably getting a little bit lucky via BABIP. I'm somewhat of a believer in the 2.45% home run rate, but it's not because he limits fly balls. It's not even because he limits barrels. 8.8% barrels allowed on a 20.7 degree average launch. You're getting a lot of launch out of Andrew Abbott. What he's missed is hard hits, exit velo. He's been good at inducing weak and medium contact on those fly balls. But on the wrong day, those fly balls absolutely will eat him up. 26.1% strikeouts, mostly coming via the 11.3% swinging. He's, again, been good. Going up against a team with a 23% strikeout rate. At a more fair price on this big slate with a lot of discounts available, I'd be more interested. I think in this spot, priced like it is, I'm leaning Twins bats. I am more interested in David Festa on the other side. He's pitched to a 4.76 ERA, but a 4.23 xFIP. He's walking more by a percentage point than Andrew Abbott is over his 5 starts. Striking out a similar number, 25.8%. He's doing that on a 13.3% swinging strike rate. He needs time, I think, to really find his form in the show, and then some of these numbers probably climb. The walk rate probably dips. We see better CSW as he's just painting the zone a little bit more. But he's already getting the swinging strikes on the board. 4.12% home run rate is certainly problematic. It feeds into the Reds' power upside for sure. 91.7 miles an hour of exit velo in the small sample, 11.5% barrels on an 18.8 degree average launch. In no way am I saying this is a safe spot, but I am saying it's got, at worst, a similar enough projection in the median and similar upside, similar ceiling to Andrew Abbott, who is not without a basement himself. So given the dramatic difference in price, I'm more interested in David Festa on the mound. But it's probably a 1-for-1 exchange where if I build a Festa lineup, I'm going to build a red stack in my next lineup or in another lineup. Looking at the Twins, Byron Buxton up at the top, 12.22 in the home run model. Looks very appealing. Ricky Lee saying, we live in a world where Addison Barger has a higher home run rate than Corbin Carroll. What a world. Hey, matchups matter. Michael Knack says, let's get the chat going. Who's the most famous athlete you've ever met in person? Who is the most famous athlete I've ever met in person? Dave Winfield, Willie Randolph. Briefly as a child, I think I've told that story before. What other athletes have I met? I can think on that. I've met a few over time. Oh, good. Lou Bob in the lineup. Whew. Anthony Taylor says LBJ. Lone Wolf says Festa has no ceiling, though. He hasn't scored over 20 DK points. I mean, we're talking about 5 starts. 4 strikeouts over 6 innings, 2 earned runs allowed in his last one, 3 hits against Texas. 6 strikeouts, but gave up 8 earned runs on 3 home runs at the Athletics. That's that ballpark. 5 strikeouts in 4 innings, 6 strikeouts in 4 1/3, 4 strikeouts in 4 2/3. He's most certainly got ceiling. That was against one of those teams was the Mets. The other 2 were bad, Tigers and the White Sox. In 6 starts, 28 2/3, the other half of this season that he pitched down in AAA. Had a 30% strikeout rate, 30.6% against a 3.6% walk. Pitched to a 2.52 FIP, 2.83 ERA, a 2.92 xFIP. So was dominating AAA, 25 years old, kind of right on time. He's one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball. Made 13 major league starts last year. Pitched to a 27.8% strikeout rate. Walked a few too many at 8.3, but was very good. 4.90 ERA, but a 3.58 xFIP. Similar swinging strike rate to what he was this year. He's improved on it this year. Stuff plus has come down a little bit, but he was allowing a little bit less power last year on similar contact, but the barrels were way lower. He's most definitely got some ceiling, especially against the Reds team that comes in with a 24.7% strikeout rate. They can draw walks. They can exploit some downside too, and they can hit for power. Again, it's not safe, but he absolutely has ceiling, especially the way he's priced. 72, 75. He's one of the higher ceiling SP2s on the board. Lomo says, I guess I'm waiting for the 30 DK points plus. But you don't want to be waiting for it. You want to have it when it happens. Let the other people wait for it. You want to be there on the day. Greg Cone says, I met Joe Pepitone. What a character. Ricky, I wouldn't go that route. Can we just punt 2 pitchers with 4K closers or something today? That seems a little dicey. It's a deep pitching slate. I don't know what you're worried about. There's a lot of good options today for cheap prices. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I think it's more broad than it is tall. I don't trust Robbie Ray, and he's the top pitcher on the board and the only ace. But there's discounts galore. And Festa's one of them. Go back to the Twins, 58-36, perfectly reasonable for Byron Buxton. Good slash line over 231, 11 homers, 12 steals, 229 ISO. Creator runs 34% better than average. And then the Twins get cheap, real cheap. Ryan Jeffers at 36-27. He's hit 4 home runs this year. He's putting good bat on ball, 8.2% barrels, 42.2% hard hits. His creator runs 7% better than average. He's getting on an aggressively good clip. Just needs to find a little bit more success with the power stroke, 130 ISO. It's a little bit off the mark for the contact he's made, for the quality that we know he has, 353 xWOBA. Willie Castro, 3,400, 2,900, fills 4 positions on FanDuel, fills second base or outfield on DraftKings. Either way with this player, 290, 365, 483 over 197 chances, 7 home runs, 3 steals. Like the upside, 141 WRC plus. I typically like Castro, a little better, like down lineup, sneakier version of Castro that we used to have, but I'll take this version. Carlos Correa, still getting okay, mid-board type barrels and hard hits, but it's been problematic as far as justifying it on a continuing basis. There's only so far we can go with last year's numbers. Right now, 245, 283, 373, a 313 xWOBA, and 84 WRC plus. Meh. But he's very cheap. 36-26. I'm still willing to take shots with Carlos Correa at shortstop. And I value the shortstop position, so that should say something. Ty France at 35-27, 5 home runs, but a decent slash line. Another player just getting on base aggressively well. 355 xWOBA. He's carrying a 331 on base on the back of the baseball card, a 103 WRC plus. He's good, not great, or fine, not even good necessarily, but a 9% barrel, scoring the ball up pretty decently this year. He's always been relatively low strikeout, low walk outside of last year where he popped up 20+% strikeouts. It's kind of back managed to where he's normally this year. So for cheap pricing at first base, if you're going Twins, there's no reason to exclude him. And I'll give you one better. He's at least a moderately interesting one-off at those prices. He's just a very cheap, capable enough first baseman against what I consider to be a gettable pitcher. And what Andrew Abbott does well, Ty France can hopefully negate a little bit with what he does well. Especially if we're just looking at it as a couple of base hits, maybe he drives in a couple of runs kind of a day. Not a monster home run option, but 6.70, also not nothing in the home run model. Brooks Lee, cheap middle infielder. I think you want him at second base on either side. Another guy with moderate pop in the bat, having an okay year at the plate as far as the slash line goes. Just a 138 ISO at 300 xWOBA, 1 point below average via WRC plus. He's all right. Trevor Larnach, 37-28. Power upside from the left side, 10 home runs on the board in 280 chances. A mediocre 163 ISO, but a 106 WRC plus. Created enough runs to be involved. Harrison Bader, Jonah Bride, more mix and matchy kind of pieces. Bader's not been bad, over 198 plate appearances, 343 on base, stolen a few bags. He's hit 6 home runs. On the Reds side, TJ Friedl is still 4,800 on DraftKings. I still consider that to be a little bit aggressively expensive for Friedl. He's scored a lot of runs. He's done some correlated scoring this year. He's getting on in a very good 384 clip. But he doesn't hit the ball particularly hard. He does have 8 home runs. He has stolen 9 bags. Helps the fantasy value. But he's kind of betrayed on the back part of the numbers over here. Once we get down to the 151 ISO, the limited 315 xWOBA. His creator runs 28% better than average, but that's kind of results-based. Needs a lot of help from his friends most days. But low strikeout, high walk, in play against Festa if we're chasing the downside of David Festa. Gavin Lux does a lot of similar things. A little bit higher strikeout, but draws plenty of walks. Also doesn't hit the ball particularly hard. Just 2 home runs for him. 281, 366, 386. Getting on base at a great clip, but carrying a 105 ISO. A 315 xWOBA that matches TJ Friedl. His creator runs 9% better than average. He's fine, but he's okay. He's cheap. I mean, he's priced like the player he is, 33-27. Between the two, I think I'd rather go to Gavin Lux, honestly, and just plunk him in at second base. I think I said that the last time we talked about the Reds. Ellie is an absolute star. 16 homers, 20 steals. He's already driven in 50 and scored 57 this year if you care about runs and RBIs. 225 ISO at 368 xWOBA under the covers. It's tremendous. He's perfectly fine to spend your money at shortstop on Ellie De La Cruz. Tyler Stevenson, a good power bat at catcher for just 4,400 in this ballpark against a kid who's given up power, premium contact, and home runs this year. Stevenson's very in play, 14.1% barrels, 55.1% hard hits. He's hit 6 home runs in 142 chances. He's carrying a 205 ISO. There's nothing to dislike about that spot. That's an interesting enough catcher to use as a one-off. He's not aggressively cheap, but he's also not expensive, and the price probably doesn't match what he's capable of if Festa gives up the kind of contact he has been. Christian Encarnacion Strand, I got to fix that name. One of the dumber changes that we have to make on a regular basis. Come on, Fantasy Labs. Upgrade your shit so you can fit his whole name in. If they can get it on the back of a baseball jersey, you can damn sure get it into your stupid website. Not stupid, incredibly helpful website. 5 home runs on the board and 97 plate appearances for Strand. 45.7% hard hits, 10% barrels. Fills in first and third base for a cheap price, 7.81 in the home run model today. Kid can hit the ball extremely, extremely hard. That's what he's here for. We'll see how the rest comes in. Right now, 23.7% strikeouts, down from 28% the last 2 years. Not a guy who's going to draw any walks. So he needs to keep that strikeout rate kind of low because he's not a 3 true outcomes guy. If he's striking out aggressively 28, 30%, then he's just a bad hitter with a little bit of power. So we'll see where it goes, but I'm interested at these prices against a pitcher who, again, is giving up tons of barrels, tons of premium contact. Will Benson can go deep with the best of them. 6 home runs on the board in 103 plate appearances. They came in a rush, but he could do that again in an instant. 244 ISO, 16.4% barrel, 56.7% hard hits. Do not sleep on Will Benson if you're going to the Reds. Spencer Steer, 31-26. Mix and match quality so far this year has been better than this in seasons past. Jake Fraley, 35-28, just another outfielder, 5 home runs, 4 steals. Getting on at a 336 clip makes him interesting. I would take him and wrap him back around to the top rather than using him to like end a middle down kind of a stack, middle out. Matt McClain, 39-28, affordable if you're just chasing numbers from 2 years ago. 8 home runs, 11 steals. At least you're getting some counting stats over 251 chances. He's gotten very cheap at second base. It's a guy who just 2 years ago went 16-14 in 403 chances, slash 293, 57, 507. Career runs 28% better than average. Missed all of last year. Has been pretty mediocre so far this season. Man, tricky one. I'm going to lean Twins bats, especially because of how cheap they are. I think it's just value there. I'll go Twins bats, Reds bats, put the hitting on top, and then I do think it's Festa over Abbott. And it's mostly about the pricing. If we're just talking who just goes out, they both have okay days, who goes out and has the better score more often, it probably is Abbott. But I don't think it's offset by how much they're offset by salary. I hope that translates. If you talk about ceiling, I think the ceiling is at worst equal. Mets and Braves, these lineups are in. This is great. We started early. The team started getting those lineups early, although we've somehow already gotten to 343. What lineup did I just grab? Mets. Good pitching to work with in this one. Braves checking in at a 4.56 implied total. The Mets at 4.04. I think we zero in on some Braves bats if we're taking bats from this game and just draw some of the power, especially from the right side against the lefty here. Peterson, very good at checking home runs. 1.21% home run rate on just 4.6 degree average launch this year, just allowing a 5.7% barrel. Does give up hard hits and exit velo like a lot of these ground ball pitchers, but it doesn't burn him all that frequently. But if I'm going Braves, that's what I'm going for. The thing is, it's probably, a situation that looks kind of like what we talked about yesterday with Jose Soriano, who has similar attributes to an even more exaggerated launch angle against the Yankees yesterday, where it was, all right, if you're taking some power away, you got a pitcher who can find some strikeouts. It might be some visible downside on the Braves, even with that Vegas total. I think it leads us to at least considering some Peterson shares, but what you don't get there is the discount. 9,097 is just kind of okay. He projects similarly to Abbott and to David Festa. 21.5% strikeouts this year, pitching to a very nice 2.49 ERA at 3.36 xFIP. He's been good. 10.6% swinging, 29.1% CSW. There's going to be a few base hits in there. 1.19 whip against a okay 7.6% walk rate. He can spike upside for sure. But I don't know. I think if I'm going down the board, I think I'm probably just chasing a little bit of those value prices. 9 innings last time, though, as mentioned, against the Nats, a team that hits lefties pretty well. 6 Ks, no walks, no runs. 7 innings against the Dodgers, a team that hits everybody pretty well. 3 earned runs on 7 hits. That's okay. And 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. That's a solid 7-inning game against the Dodgers. 5 2/3 of 1-run ball on 5 hits against the Rockies in a game in Queens. Struck out 5, walked 1. 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, 2 runs allowed on 5 hits over 7 2/3 again against the Dodgers. Held the Yankees to 1 run. Hasn't allowed a home run since May 12th. Has allowed 4 home runs all season, 2 of which came in his season debut against Miami of all teams. Then back-to-back starts on May 6th and May 12th, allowed 1 to Arizona and Pittsburgh. Allowed just 2 runs in each of those games, though. Struck out 6 Diamondbacks, 7 Pirates. What you lose with him in games where it looks like he struggles slightly more is some walks. Each of the games where, and it's only a couple of earned runs in any of these starts. That's how you get to a 2.49 ERA. But he loses a little bit walks-wise on the bad days. These Braves do have some players who can draw some walks. There's a small sample for Ronnie Acuna, but that's a definite attribute of his. Matty Olson's always been able to draw walks and is this year. Marcell Ozuna has always been able to draw walks and is aggressively doing so this year. Albie's, the one thing he's doing maybe is drawing some walks. Murph is drawing walks. So there is a collision of factors with Peterson for sure. But if he can keep the ball in the yard, I like him to have another 2-3 run day on the downside, find 6-7 strikeouts, and be somewhat effective. I just wish he was a little bit cheaper. Hopefully what you get is an ownership discount. Schwelly at 98, 10,000. I think you fire away, but he's facing a very, very good Mets lineup. A lot of hitters in there, difficult to strike out. 20.7% average for this lineup, including one guy under 10%, who's not much of a threatening bat overall. Hitting 5th today, Jeff McNeil. Some gettable strikeout targets down the bottom of the lineup, but aggressively good among their best hitters at not striking out. So there is a collision of factors for Schwelly as well, but he's got a 23.5% strikeout, a 3.9% walk, pitching to a 3.11 ERA against a 2.93 xFIP. He's been absolutely tremendous this season by and large. Given up a little bit in terms of contact, but not on a aggressive fly ball trajectory. So he's perfectly fine as far as the home runs go. You can see a little bit of impact there. I like Schwelly at price, 98, 10,000. I'd much rather have Schwellenbach than Andrew Abbott for that level of investment. Francisco Lindor at the top, 56-35. Just a terrible matchup overall for these Mets, and Vegas is kind of screaming that at us. But Lindor is obviously a priority if you're going there. What maybe he gets a little bit limited for is his value as a one-off around lineups, or maybe on the other side of that same coin, he becomes more of a one-off and Mets stacks are a little bit more limited. Kind of depends on how you approach it. Do you want to grab Mets in full form against a very good pitcher, but at lower ownership, but high cost? Or does it kind of cut out and become just like, I'll take the upside of the individual in those one-off shares? I think I would lean, if I'm going to any Mets, I want to grab all the Mets. 43,000 for Nimmo is part of that. 13 home runs in 280 plate appearances, a 201 ISO, a 342 xWOBA suggests that we should come up in that slash line. Still making killer contact, doesn't really strike out, draws plenty of walks over his career, should push the on base back up. And even with the struggles, 112 WRC plus. Juan Soto is Juan Soto. Pete Alonso is Pete Alonso. Let's kind of speak for themselves. 13 and 17 home runs so far this year. Alonso, I will say, has fallen off the home run pace a little bit. He's down to 293, 395, 70, which is still spectacular. But given how he started the year, he has cooled slightly. Those are still tremendous numbers for 3,900 for 5,200. As mentioned, McNeil, just kind of a low strikeout, high, moderate to high walk rate. High walk rate this year, more moderate the last couple seasons. He's hit 7 home runs. He's getting on at a 365 clip. He's incredibly playable, but he's also a lower priority than many of the Mets. Jared Young is barreling the ball regularly, 12.5% barrels over his 26 plate appearances. He's hit 2 home runs. Extreme small sample, obviously, but remains very cheap. It's just a collision of first baseman with him and Pete Alonso, and you want Pete Alonso if you're going to the Mets. So difficult to roster. A little bit easier at 2,200, first and outfield eligibility with the util spot as well on FanDuel. 32.25 for Francisco Alvarez. He's got tons and tons of power. Just probably a bad day for that. Probably a day where we are looking at more the downside of his strikeouts than the power upside. Ronnie Mauricio, 13% barrels over 38 plate appearances. He's hit 2 home runs. He's stolen 2 bases. Everything else has been a little bit shaky, But if you're going Mets, you can mix him in for a few shares. Third base, not necessarily ideal. I'd rather have him at second like he is on FanDuel. And then Tyrone Taylor, a mix and match quality outfielder. On the Braves side, Acuna, obviously a ridiculous superstar. 90 plate appearances in. We've got 7 home runs, a 390, 478, 701 slash line after missing most of last year. All of last year except for 222 plate appearances that were not good. He's back in full form. Eli White in the 2-hole, kind of an awkward fit, 3,100, 2,500. Just getting on at a 281 clip so far this year. Not exactly sure what we're doing there. He's cheap. He'll help you average down the top of the lineup, but I don't see much reason outside of some correlated scoring to really consider Eli White all that strongly. I guess the right-handed bat against the lefty is the reason that he's up there. That said, it should be Ozzie Albies. Sean Murphy could even fill the 2 spot or just slide Austin Riley into that role and move everybody up. Eli White is a weird fit there. Matt Olson's a superstar, 18.3% barrels, 55% hard hits, crushing baseballs like he did 2 years ago when he hit 50-plus home runs. He's only got 14 on the board so far this year, 224 ISO, but we're gradually climbing. We'll get where we need to be when it's all said and done. 53.35, affordable enough. 48.34 for Austin Riley is too cheap. 14.6% barrels, 51% hard hits, a very good slash line, 11 home runs. He's been excellent. He's not hitting for as much just raw power in terms of homers, in terms of extra base hits with just that 160 ISO. But everything else is pretty much where it's supposed to be. I'm not worried. I think things just come around in terms of the raw totals as far as the home run count. Maybe we don't get to 30, but 25 is easily in play still. Ozuna at 41.34. Still a really low price on DK. Fair price on FanDuel. 11 home runs on the board. Down to a 388 on base. He was over 400 like a week or two ago. Still a tremendous barrel rate, hard hit rate. He's playing hurt. We get it. 131 WRC plus though. Still doing his thing out there. He's gotten too cheap on DK. 39.29 for Ozzie Albies. 6 home runs, 6 steals. Mix and match quality out of him the last season plus. Difficult to trust right now. Difficult to roster. Him and Michael Harris have been getting challenging over this season, 75 and a 67 WRC plus respectively. In between the two, Sean Murphy, 3,500, 3,000, has 9 home runs on 165 chances, a 225 ISO, mashing baseballs like he's supposed to. No reason to not include Murph in your Brave stacks. He's a high priority bat there. And honestly, a interesting enough catcher one-off, even with Peterson taking some home run upside off the board. That's a very cheap price for what Murphy can do, and eventually he'll probably get a plate appearance against a reliever somewhere in here. Goose the upside a little bit. 11.8% barrels, 45.2% hard hits from a $3,500 catcher where you got to play it. Nick Allen's just a defender at the bottom of the lineup. Schwellenbach, Peterson, Braves, Mets. Lean pitching in this one a little bit. Doesn't look like we've got O's or Rays in. Oops. Cujo says, I meet a lot of NFL players from my area in East Texas. Now, my cousins were buddies with some of the young Cowboys when they lived in Dallas years and years ago at this point, like 15 years ago. But they worked at one of the high-end golf courses around the area. So they got to know a lot of the Cowboys players in their off time. Trying to remember the guy's name. There's a guy, maybe you guys know. Is a lineman, I want to say. Went to Temple University. Played for the Eagles. And I want to say the Jets. The reason I bring him up is my ridiculous former boss was a football player at Temple back in the 80s and like will tell you about it aggressively. We ran into that guy at a bar, super late night in Manhattan. This is 10 years ago, but 30 years after that guy retired. He was like a gigantic, but like, broken down old man, hammered, just sitting at the bar. And my boss would not shut up talking to this guy. Literally like took his phone out, called his buddies, made the guy say hi to his buddies from Temple. And he's like all this like worst possible behavior for a celebrity. No, not Hassan Reddick. Think like 70s, like maybe early 80s. Can't remember the dude's name. I'll come to it at some point, and I'll let you guys know. But just an absurd celebrity encounter. Made the guy really uncomfortable. I met Larry Johnson from the NBA, but that was just in a professional role. We were in a box in the Garden for some corporate event, and he's like one of the official MSG greeters now. So he just comes by the box for 5 minutes and shakes everybody's hand and how's it going? But technically met him. Who else? I know I have other answers out there. Anthony Taylor said, you called out the youngsters from Boston too. You're learning a lot. Yeah, buddy. Look, got to give the Red Sox credit for the things they do have. It's just they're lost some pretty important things that they used to have, that they could have had with those interesting young players. Dean Kramer on the bump for the Orioles. Zach Littell, kind of interesting, going back the other way for the Rays. Littell, a 3.84 ERA with a 4.15 xFIP, pitching to a 16.7% strikeout, which is not overly appealing, but only a 3.2% walk. Doesn't induce a ton of swinging strikes, gives up a fair amount of premium contact and power, and a lot of home runs so far this year. But he's a better pitcher than this. At 8,800, he's kind of awkwardly priced on FanDuel. I wouldn't expect him to be overly popular. The home runs are skewed by a pair of 4 home run games and a 3 home run game. So when he's bad for power, he's really bad for it. 4 home runs at Fenway his last time out. 4 earned runs on 4 solo homers. 6 strikeouts, no walks. 4 strikeouts, no walks. 1 home run allowed, but that was the only earned run on 6 hits over 6 against Miami. A 3-run, 9-inning game where he gave up 10 hits, but only 3 runs on 2 homers. 6 strikeouts and a walk against Houston. Several performances beyond 6 innings. A lot of performances into the 6th inning. 86 2/3 in 14 starts. Pretty good depth of start on average. Last year, to prove that he was a better pitcher. 3.63 ERA with a 4.01 xFIP, 21.5% strikeouts against just 4.7% walks, 11.1% swinging. So we need to reclaim some of that swinging strike rate to really push the strikeouts back where they belong. He was better at limiting barrels, but not exactly immaculate in that department last year. Better at limiting hard hits and exit velo, and certainly half the home runs allowed. I expect things will normalize. It was similar the year before. So in that many starts, he was much better than these 14. I'm more of a buyer at 73 on DraftKings than I am at 88 on FanDuel, though. The Orioles gradually maybe rounding into form at least a little bit. They're definitely vulnerable, as we just saw. Monster game from Pepio last night. But Littell's not exactly at that level right now. So I think he's more just a dart for like 7 okay innings, 7 innings of 3-run ball where he did allow a home run, but didn't get crushed by it. For 73, that's a dart you could throw on DraftKings. 88 on FanDuel, I question the value of that. Maybe he's got a shot at a quality start despite allowing a few runs, but you're really playing with fire, and he's not priced like that at all. Dean Kramer at 66.78, pitching to a 4.99 ERA, but a 4.30 xFIP, 17.8% strikeout, 6.1% walks. Too many guys on base in general with a 1.37 whip. Had a 7-inning start last time out against the Tigers. Struck out 8 and walked 2, but allowed 2 home runs, 4 runs overall. 5 earned runs allowed in 5 1/3 against the Athletics out in Sacramento. There's the good start. It was against the White Sox 3 starts ago. 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, 1 earned run on 6 hits. And had a good one at Fenway as well. No runs, 7 hits allowed over 5 1/3. Struck out 4, walk 1. It's effective enough. A 7-inning game back at the beginning of May against Kansas City. No earned runs, 3 hits, 2 strikeouts, and a walk. The downside is you really don't have all that much believable strikeout stuff. But the Rays maybe feed him a bonus K along the way. But you're probably looking at, a 6 and change kind of performance. If things go well, where he allows 3 runs, kind of similar to Littell on the other side, maybe 4 or 5 strikeouts. But he's very cheap at 66. 78 on FanDuel is loosely playable, but also probably not overly worthwhile. Different plays across sites. That said, Rays with a 4.69 implied total. O's with a 4.4 implied total. I lean bats a little bit more in this one. Going back and forth with these 4 corner spots. Jackson Holiday. We don't have these lineups yet. Again, this one does have a little bit of weather concern, something to watch, but it's probably just Florida passing showers. Holiday at just 42.29 doesn't really, price-wise, back up his pedigree, his performance this year. Over 260 plate appearances, 8 homers, 7 steals, a very solid 331 xWOB under the cover, suggestive of more growth to come. Creating runs 7% better than average, 9.4% barrels, 44.4% hard hits, and just fulfilling his destiny. This is what we expected all along. And we expect him to grow and be even better than he's been. Adley at 4,200 has been disappointing over 265. He's not striking out. He's drawing his walks. He's still hitting the ball hard. But I can say the same things about JT Realmuto. And we need Adley at this age to be as good as JT was at that same age, not the current version of JT Realmuto. And that's really what he's looking like right now. The 356 xWOB under the surface is encouraging. 106 WRC plus is definitely keeps him on the board. A lot of that is via the on base, the walks. 4,200 against Zach Littell. He's very much in play. 49.32 for Gunnar, carrying a 10.71 in the home run model. He's at 8 in 275 chances, slashing 278, 338, 440. Maybe not where we expect him, but certainly not bad. Those are good raw numbers if you just take the name off the line there. 3,200 is pretty aggressively inexpensive on FanDuel, honestly, for a shortstop and a high-end one against a guy who's given up 6% home runs in 14 starts. 4,900 on DraftKings. That's slightly higher, but still very affordable. Westberg at 4,300 has an 8 in the home run model. Second base eligible on FanDuel is nice. 14% barrels in his 123 plate appearances and fewer batted ball events. 7 home runs to show for that. 230 ISO. One of the better power bats on this team right now. Ryan O'Hearn's just been really good. 4,800, 3,100, 10 home runs on the board. 306, 386, 495. Excellent option, first base or outfield. Use him either way. Ramon Laureano can hit the ball very hard. 13.6% barrels this year, 12.4 last year. He's hit 8 home runs in just 141 chances. Decent slash line. Can steal you a bag if he's on. 246 ISO is really good. 133 WRC plus. It's been a good year for Laureano in the games he's played. Maybe it's been a good year for him in the games he hasn't played too. I don't really know what's going on in his life, but what we know about looks pretty good. Seth Mullins, mix and match quality. 11 home runs that came in an awful hurry at the beginning of the season. Down to 233, 319, 450. Still carrying that 218 ISO, 8.2% barrels. There's good, there's bad. Stolen base and home runs. You're just kind of looking at the raw counting stats with said most of the time, I think. Ramon Urias, very cheap for a guy who hits the ball as hard as he does. 4 home runs on the board, a respectable enough slash line. 103 WRC plus. As always, I like him when we can get him down here at low ownership, particularly at second base on FanDuel for 27. I would play him on DraftKings at 32 at third base if I'm forgoing the Westberg shares, but that becomes a little bit more of a discussion. Colton Cowser for 39.28, 3 home runs in 55 chances, mashing baseballs. He's flawed as far as strikeouts go, but he can draw walks with the best of them when he's going right. Just finding his footing for the season. I like the power bat from the left side from late in the lineup. Josh Lowe, Brandon Lau. We talked about Lau yesterday. It is 14th home run. He's got a 10 plus in the home run model today and could easily go deep against Dean Kramer. 198 ISO on the season, a 359 xWOBA, 119 WRC plus. As Gunn put it, we've done good business with some of these hitters this season. Brandon Lau's one of them. Jonathan Aranda's another one. Another lefty, 10.6% barrels, 53.1% hard hits. He's blasted 8 homers. He's also carrying a tremendous slash line, 324, 416, 498, a 403 xWOBA to tell us that it's all very real. He's been excellent this season. You do have still the ongoing positional conflict at first base with Yandy, which kind of sucks because Yandy's barreling the ball at a similar clip. He's got a slightly higher by a percentage point hard hit rate. He's hit 10 home runs. He's got a more realistic home run upside. He is similarly skilled as far as getting to first base. So it's an interesting hitter where you have the back and forth on DK. No such problem on FanDuel. It just takes up your util spot, but it's a worthwhile investment. Where you run into problems with this Rays stack, though, around that first base thing, is if you're looking to use them with a team like, say, the Yankees, who have multiple first base options. A couple of them with first base and outfield eligibility, but more, so you only get a couple bites if there's multiple first basemen or if you just have one appealing first baseman from the other team that you want to stack. So it is a challenge even on FanDuel with just how it fits with the other team. Junior Caminero at 42.33, differently priced across sites. FanDuel acknowledging the 17 home runs that he's hit in 285 plate appearances, over which he's created runs 25% better than average, carrying a 347 xWOBA. DraftKings apparently pricing him based on his 295 on base percentage and nothing else. I really don't understand that price. That is like Mark Vientos last year, almost exactly. Sub 18% strikeout rate, a 6% walk rate. So, all right, he doesn't walk. It's leading to some lousy on base numbers, but that's somewhat attributable also to just success on batted balls that don't fly out of the stadium like he frequently does. He's really good. Too cheap. Jake Mangum is a mix and match quad A player who has had a good 137 plate appearances. I'm very skeptical about the ongoing value. Matt Dace, mix and match quality catcher with a little bit of pop in the bat. Cameron Misner, Taylor Walls, moderate stolen base options who neither one of whom can really reliably reach first base. Sub 300 on base out of both of those players so far this year. 254 and 257 xWOBAs, not suggestive of upside. Debating which of these pitchers I'd rather target more. I'm going to go Orioles bats, Rays bats. Flip Vegas a little bit there. Again, there's no difference between those two totals. And then probably Littell, then Dean Kramer. And those are both just mostly value-oriented SP2 darts on DraftKings. There's not a lot of upside there. It's just price. And the idea that they could pitch clean innings or relatively clean innings. What you lack here is strikeout upside. Cards and the Chi Sox. Another game very threatened by rain. As we talked about at the beginning of the show, guys, both games in Chicago are definitely the worst spots for rain today. So just keep an eye on what happens there. Cards and the White Sox lineups are in. I do like the looks of Liberator. I want it to stay dry if I'm going to pitching. All right, guys. Yeah. So maybe that takes a little bit of upside away. We'll just have to wait and see what the ongoing weather forecast looks like as we get there. But it's a really good spot against these White Sox. They check in with a 24.7% average strikeout rate. That projected version had a 26.7. You do have some small sample numbers in there. Austin Slater at 36.4 over just 55 plate appearances, but was reliably at 28% the last two seasons. Miguel Vargas probably outperforming his talent so far this year, so you could add a little bit of strikeout downside. Lubob, 30%. It just looks like he's a 30% strikeout guy. Edgar Caro is reasonable, but everybody downline him. Even Tauchman, who gets on base very reliably and shouldn't be hitting sixth, strikes out 20% of the time, average. There's upside for Liberator. Things go well. If we get a dry game, it's pitched to a 3.93 ERA with a 3.59 xFIP. That is in spite of 3 bumpy starts in a row. Last time out, gave up 5 earned on 9 hits over 5 innings to Toronto, struck out 4 and walked 1. Start before that against Kansas City, went just 4, ouch. Allowed 7 earned runs, ouch, on 8 hits, 2 home runs, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk. That's fine. 5 strikeouts in a 5-inning game against Texas, but he allowed 4 earned, 5 runs total on 7 hits, gave up a home run in that one. But before that, had been pitching pretty tremendous and still really reflected in his numbers. 20.3% strikeouts, not a monster strikeout pitcher, but that works really well against just a 3.6% walk. 10.5% swinging strike rate. The CSW stands to gain a little bit. Has given up premium contact. It hasn't really cost him. 2.29% home runs. Some normalization over the last couple games as far as the home run ball. 10% barrels on a 13.9 degree average launch, 43.7% hard hits, 91.1 miles an hour of exit velo. The good news is these White Sox have one guy, maybe 1.5 guys who can hit home runs. This is not a good team. It's an ideal opponent for Liberator to get right. Shane Smith on the other side. He's got a 2.37 ERA. 4.09 xFIP is probably the real number. He struck out 22.4%, though, induces a good 12.4% swinging strike rate. He's been tremendous at limiting home runs. He's missed barrels. He's difficult to square up. 11.9 degree average launch is non-tragic. It's a fly ball trajectory, but it's non-tragic. A lot of line drives. 44.7% hard hits and 90.3 miles an hour of exit velo is where we can find our downside. Probably will end up with more home runs on the board when it's all said and done. But so far has been very good in that. It's having a big impact here for the Cardinals. Despite their 4.91 implied total, there's really only moderate projections fantasy-wise, because this is a group of either underperforming, underwhelming, or just flat out bad hitters. This is not a good Cardinals lineup. I continue to really believe that. Probably better for real baseball than they are for fantasy. But even in real baseball, pretty middle of the board. They're going to be sellers at the deadline if they can find a sucker to take Nolan Arenado. White Sox at a 4.19 implied total are maybe a few darts if you're just hunting for the downside of Liberatore. You think he comes out weak again, then sure, why not? A few cheap darts of Chase Meadroff, Miguel Vargas, Lubob. Maybe you're working some Edgar Quero and Mike Tauchman around the edges. But it's not good. As we talked about with Gunn yesterday, and I've harped on throughout the season, even when you go contrarian, you'd rather do it with at least competent team. For the Cards, if we're going to the top of their lineup, Brendan Donovan at 37, 3,000. Not all that expensive for a guy who's performed like he has, and a guy who has been good, not great over the years. 313, 381, 440. It continues to be his best season. 4 home runs, 3 steals, 367 xWOBA rating, runs 34% better than average. It's a good spot for him up at the top of the lineup like this. I don't mind him here, and I like that he's just second base. It's where I want him on FanDuel with all those positions. Mason Wynn at 35-29, 6 home runs, moderate slash line. He's all right. He's just kind of a mixer at shortstop, but I want a higher end shortstop in most of my lineups. I really do. So that's a position that if I'm going to Cards, I probably sacrifice that spot to gain ground. Since I'm getting cheap Cards bats, I can spend more on a high quality, either one-off or second stack shortstop. Ivan Herrera, the most expensive hitter on this team on both sides now. 46 on DK is higher than 32 on FanDuel, but not by much. 312, 389, 539, 8 home runs at 227 ISO. He's been tremendous in his 162 chances. Finally arrived after being blocked positionally for so long. 161 WRC plus. Kid is legitimately good. I just don't know that I want to go all the way up the ladder for him on a day where the Cards, despite that high total, I don't know. It just kind of seems mediocre. Wilson Contreras at 37-31, 9 home runs, just a 165 ISO, making very good contact at 13.3% barrels, 46.3% hard hits, reminiscent of who he's been in the last 2 seasons in that department. Has actually improved strikeout, but he's lost a little bit of walk, still getting on at a 336 clip. Remains a very interesting bat. I just wish he still had catcher eligibility on DK. FanDuel giving him that irrelevant catcher eligibility all season long is kind of frustrating. Alec Burleson, mix and match quality in the outfield. 298, 340, 424, perfectly fine, but limited upside as far as power outside of correlated scoring. He doesn't give you very much. 42.4% hard hits, 13.7% strikeouts, low strikeout, low walk, leads to some high quality batted ball events. But as far as fantasy scoring, a guy who needs positional help, needs sequencing to really get there. Arenado, at least his pricing reflects the quality now. 34-28. He's hit 8 home runs, slashing 243, 304, 388. He's just gone. As I've been saying, it was a nice career. Kudos, but he's just gone. At least he's not expensive. 37-29 for Nootbaar. He's hit 8 home runs, moderate slash line, 98 WRC plus. Underwhelming. Still remains probably the best hitter on this team right now, with apologies to maybe Contreras and Herrera. Nootbaar is good. I'm willing to pay those prices, but I don't like getting to him in the 7 spot now. If I'm getting there, I wish he was hitting, honestly, 2nd. You could easily have put him 2nd, 3rd, mix up the stretch of righties there. That's where he belongs. Pedro Paz and Victor Scott. Scott steals bases, 19 on the season and 241 chances against a 325 on base. That's the same number of stolen bases Chandler Simpson had in half as many plate appearances. Meadroff is the priority in White Sox stacks. 37-26. He's slashing 282, 365, 345. Not a lot of power, but a lot of ability to reach first base. Doesn't strike out much, draws plenty of walks. You correlate him with, well, that's where the problem comes in. 10 home runs for Miguel Vargas. You're not really paying a tax for what he's already done, so it's still okay to go to. 10.8% barrels, 41.7% hard hits. He's cut strikeouts, walks around the same. Just, I'm not a believer. I'm not there yet. 326 xwOBA. I'm really not there. But would be a high priority bat if you're going to the White Sox. Slater, pretty bad. 55 plate appearances so far this year. Last year, 209, 321, 266, 2 home runs, 3 steals. Year before, had a more effective season, but still only 5 home runs, 2 steals, 270, 348, 400. Most of his work comes against left-handed pitching in a platoon role. Does have that upside, but those numbers are in that role. So, a lot of bad in there. Keto is cheap for a guy with a 45.7% hard hit rate at a position you have to play on DraftKings. That's why he'd be in play. Hard hits, seen decent results at 278, 348, 319, but just a .042 ISO, 0 home runs, no barrels yet over 161 opportunities, just a 293 xwOBA, reflective of all that downside. So you're just buying a cheap catcher spot. Lubob still hits the ball hard, steals bases, sub Mendoza, sub 300 on base, a 66 WRC plus. Could not get to Los Angeles to respond to the Rafi Devers move in more of a hurry. Mike Tauchman at 36, 3,000, gets on base like crazy, 381 on base, showing a little bit of his power, 4 home runs and 105 plate appearances. Always has been capable of hitting the ball squarely, but we're looking at him more as a correlated scorer more often than not. He'd be my next man in going down the lineup, though. A min-price Lenyn Sosa, 274, 291, 383, probably deserves to be 22, 2,400, not min-price. 6.5% barrels, 42.2% hard hits. We've all seen the days over the last season or so when Lenyn Sosa's gone yard and it's been like a weird, I kind of wish I had that totally cheap player. 8 home runs last year and 369 chances, just an 80 WRC plus, just a 105 ISO to put it in actual perspective. A reasonable 254 average, but a 283 on base, 359 slug. This is not a good player. It's just a very cheap player if you're looking to fill out second base around the edges. Michael A. definitely always puts the ball in play with authority, 11.8% barrels, 46.1% hard hits, slashing just 216, 283, 376, 3 home runs, 7 steals, hiding down the bottom of the lineup where he belongs. That's where we want him. So if I'm stacking 5 White Sox, he's probably my last man in ahead of Vinny Capra, who has done nothing in 87 plate appearances. Liberator, Cardinals bats, Shane Smith, then and only then the White Sox, small stacks, cheapo value. Didn't intentionally skip the Brewers. These lineups are also not in yet. It's a pain in the ass. Let me reload the page. Maybe we got some of this. The whole sidebar thing is populated with lineups that release, but it doesn't look like they're all filling in. Nope. We do have Kansas City, Texas, which I think is next. Yep. All right. Ben Brown. Too cheap. DraftKings, 7,400. Just too cheap. Yeah, he's got a 5.71 ERA. I get that, but he's got a 3.39 xFIP underneath. Call the truth somewhere in the middle, so around 4. That's fine. For a guy with a 26.8% active strikeout rate against a 13.5% swinging strike rate and a 31.7% CSW, when Ben Brown cleans up some of the mistakes and some of the premium contact, this is an ace. That's how good Ben Brown is. Ace caliber pitcher, full stop. 7,400, 8,500 against the Brewers team that comes in with a 20.1% average strikeout rate, but some very gettable hitters through that stretch. That's a 24% rate right there. So this is a good spot for Ben Brown. Brewers at a sub-4 implied total, one of the lower teams on the day. Vegas definitely respecting the upside. If those mistakes come through, and again, 10.9% barrels, it should not be ignored. 46.3% hard hits with a 13.3 degree average launch, 92 miles an hour of exit velo. He's gotten lucky to be at 2.58% home runs against that. But given this and this and that and that, all the indicators are green light for Ben Brown continuing to find form and pitch to upside and have his days. He'll have his bumpy days for sure. And the Brewers are good enough as far as some bat on ball quality, a little bit of power, a little bit of speed, things that work well. They're good enough to get him here. So he's not safe, but he's hyper appealing over there at that price. And he's very interesting on FanDuel at 85 because you can make a lot of things work with just that much of a discount on the mound. On FanDuel, you really, really don't need to dip. I mean, Will Warren's only 82. If you need additional discount, you can also get Festa at 75. But you don't even need to go to this level. Once you start building a bunch of lineups with that price on the mound, regardless of who it is, you're going to get a lot of highly projected, really interesting lineups that are just leaving money on the table, which is fine in baseball, as we've talked about over time. But you very much don't need to dip that far down the board on FanDuel. 85 for Ben Brown is really interesting. And again, he is the demonstrable cut line on that pitching board as far as your top tier, your next tier. Chad Patrick is in that next tier. 3.25 ERA, 3.25 ERA with but a 4.15 xFIP. 22.6% strikeouts against the 7.6% walk. Totally effective. 9.9% swinging is not bad, but a 23.5% CSW is really bad against almost a 10% swinging. He's given up moderate contact on a 20.9 degree average launch. Probably a little lucky to be at 2.23% home runs, considering that's over the threshold. This is just under the 90 mile an hour average exit velo threshold. 6.5% barrels is probably what's saving the day a little bit there. But definitely a pitcher who can get nailed for power downside, and the Cubbies can hit home runs with anybody. He is having an impact, though, given the results on those home run numbers. I actually should look at. Yeah, a little bit more downside for home runs in his short stints in the minors. Wasn't bad for him, but we do have a little bit of probably small sample impact here on the Cubbies home run number, or on the Cubs home run numbers. I might normalize that in the update a little bit. I can redirect it to play off of an average that includes his numbers, but also distributes it across a multi-year average. I might do that. Just a note to remind myself. Might see a little bit more upside in the next update for the Cubs bats. 469 implied total. They look good enough anyway. They're ranked out fine. But maybe should be reflecting a little bit more power upside. But again, Patrick, a 104.68 by Stuff Plus, if you're looking for another positive indicator. He has not been bad. 8 strikeouts, 2 home runs allowed, 5 earned runs on 7 hits in 5 innings against the Braves. 6 strikeouts, 3 walks, just 1 earned run on 4 hits against the Pods. Low strikeout team, pretty decent total. 6 strikeouts, 2 runs on a home run, 5 hits over 6 innings at Philadelphia. Not a bad outing there. A short start, 4 2/3 against Boston, but struck out 6, walked 2, no runs, 3 hits. 4 2/3, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 run on 4 hits against Baltimore. He's had some good outings, several in a row before that last one. Not off the board, but 8,083. There are pitchers I want to spend less money with more upside. And they're not all facing a high-quality offense like the Cubs. Brewers bats kind of limited for me. But if you chase the downside of Ben Brown and all that premium contact, then I'm interested in Jackson Chourio. I'm interested in Christian Yelich and Rhys Hoskins with as hard as they're capable of hitting the ball still, all for effective pricing. William Contreras is in that mix, even though he's been kind of scuffling over 289 plate appearances. Really uncharacteristic outside of the 346 on base. 6 home runs, 237, 346, 347. Just a 110 ISO, a 313 xWOBA. Had to look over and make sure I was looking at the right line again. It's a problematic year so far. 5.4% barrels, cut in half from last year. 39.8% hard hits, down by 10 percentage points over the last 2 seasons. Sal Frelick, good for average, some on-base skills, decent option in the leadoff role. 357 on base, steals bases, correlates with the power bats. He's in the mix at 38, 31. More just another outfielder overall. And again, I'm not looking necessarily to target Ben Brown here, but he's low strikeout, medium walk, so could set the table a couple times for the Brewers on the wrong day against Ben Brown. Yelich, 47.8% hard hits, looks just like he was the last couple years, 7.3% barrels, not too far off the mark, has hit 14 home runs and blasted and stolen 10 bases. Otherwise, 239, 323, 427 is just kind of mid-board type slash line, 188 ISO. Creating runs 10% better than average so far. Still tons of upside, down to 44-34 across sites. Hoskins, still mashing. 11.3% barrels, 44.4% hard hits. Strikes out a lot, but draws his walks, 3 true outcomes. 335 on base, 10 homers on the board. Just a 170 ISO. We need to see the output come up a little bit as far as the home run pace, or just a few more doubles in the mix and whatnot. But overall, a good option who only cost 28 at first base, 38 on DraftKings against a kid who, again, not showing a ton of power downside, but certainly gives up plenty of premium contact. Collins, Turang, Caleb Durbin, Joey Ortiz down lineup to spare us a couple moments of me talking. 15 steals and a 349 on base out of Bryce Turang is by far the most appealing thing you can find down there. He's the guy who's in play. The other 3 guys are mix and match pieces at the absolute best. And even Turang is at just a 100 WRC plus. Doesn't hit the ball hard particularly. He started out the season strong in that department. So he's still at a 6.6% barrel, 46.2% hard hit. But you can see where those numbers were the last 2 years. And we're kind of coming back down the mountain overall. Also striking out a little bit more. Cubs lineup, definitely the more appealing side. Ian Happ, 3,300, 4,200. He's hit 7 home runs. He's getting on at a 340 clip. Still doing Ian Happ things, despite a little bit of a dip in power output. That's what I want to see return for this hitter. He's been a very good power bat in addition to being an excellent on-base and correlated scoring guy. We need to see that come back, but he hasn't been a problem as far as rostering him for DFS or in just general real-life baseball. Kyle Tucker at 64.42. That number will climb in the home run model once I go in and give it a little nudge. 13 home runs, 18 steals on the board for Tucker. A tremendous season. 397 xWOBA says that slash line will improve from where it is. Monster premium contact. You've got, 6 guys in a row with double-digit barrel rates. A 13.5% average for those 6 hitters in terms of barrels. Everybody in the mid-40s or higher. 45.4% average hard hit rate for those 6 bats. Seiya Suzuki at 52.35, affordably priced for a guy with 17 home runs. Monster contact numbers. Pete Armstrong, 61 and 4,000 in the superstar club now. After starting the season with me saying he needs to find his form and make a bunch of improvements at the plate. Well, man, did he listen. 18 homers, 23 steals, 271 ISO, 133 WRC plus. Dansby, 12.1% barrels, 46% hard hits, 13 home runs. Looking a lot like the old Dansby Swanson. 185 ISO could climb a little bit given the premium contact. Needs to find more success outside of the home runs. Needs to get on base a little bit more. 101 WRC plus could be higher, but at least we're getting our power, and he's only 45 on DraftKings, 29 on FanDuel is really appealing if you're going to this team. Michael Busch, another guy with tons of barrels, hard hits galore. 11 home runs on the season and 251 chances, a 237 ISO, 143 WRC plus. Kind of fully formed version of Michael Busch that the price is not completely caught up with. He's expensive, but not overly expensive. Carson Kelly at 41.28 has performed well when he's been in the lineup this year. 10.2% barrels, 9 home runs on the season, a 359 on base to go with that. Nico Horner mix and match with some on base, some correlated scoring, some stolen base bonuses, decent average. So if you're just chasing the base hit, stolen base, some runs scored, definitely some appeal there, but lower end than everybody else in this lineup. Matt Shaw at 35.26, mix and match quality as well. Bottom 2 spots are a little bit weaker than the top 7 for the Cubs, but this is a deep, highly playable lineup. This goes Ben Brown, Cubs bats, Chad Patrick, Brewers bats. All 4 things are in play. Things in Brewers uniforms a little bit less so. Ooh, Cujo's got some good ones. Gary Baxter, Aaron Ross, Marvin Overshawn, Trent Williams, Jeremy Lane, Terrence Murphy, Greg Ward Jr., Tyus Bauer, Darren Flowers, Justin Liggins, Troy Aikman, Emmett Smith, Ricky Williams, Earl Campbell, and many more who come to the Tyler area every year for the Earl Campbell Rose Award. Yes, and we see Patrick Mahomes when he comes to the area. He's a great man and still gives back to the community here in the Tyler, Texas area. I've known him since I was little. My old high school field house named after him. Very cool. Then Michael Knack chimes in there. We're all getting old. Yes. Hopefully we'll continue to do so. Royals at a 4.02 implied total. The Rangers pulling down a mid-4s implied total. We have both of these lineups. Let me grab them. As mentioned at the beginning of the show, the Royals are showing a little bit more quality in the model than this. And I think that's just indicative of what they do well. Putting the ball in play, hitting for average, getting on base. They do have power upside in this lineup. And Jack Leiter is a very high-end young pitcher who has had some good days, has had some bright spots already in the show, but overall is still finding his form. 3.88 ERA, but a 4.81 xFIP is kind of indicative of that. A 19.4% strikeout rate, effective enough, not exactly standout, but fine, but not against the 12.1% walk. 10.8% barrels, 41.4% hard hits, 90.4 miles an hour of exit velo. All three of those marks are above our threshold. He is getting lucky to be at a 2.59% home run rate. You can see the quality in front of your nose on Stuff Plus at 110. That's a tremendous mark. 55 2/3 in 11 starts. Again, very talented young kid who in future spots, in future years, this year against worse lineups, we will definitely be talking about. Best start of the year, 6 strikeout game. He's got 3 6 strikeout games. Every other total is lower than that. Just trying to decide, I guess 5 2/3 against the Cards, 3 starts back, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, no runs on 3 hits. Follow that up against the Rays at Tampa Bay. 3 hits over 5 innings, 1 earned run that came on a solo homer, struck out 6, walk 1, and then kind of fell apart against the Twins in Minnesota in his most recent outing. 4 innings, faced 19 batters, gave up 4 earned runs on 5 hits, struck out 3, but walked 4, home run allowed. The walks are really kind of what hampers the upside in a lot of these cases. Just looking down the game log. The Royals are a team that can take advantage of that. They're not super high walk, but they're excellent for bat on ball. And they're patient enough that we can exploit this. And if we get a bonus runner or 2 on base, they got enough guys in this lineup that hit the ball regularly and hit the ball hard regularly to deliver more runs than that 4 implied total. So I'm kind of riding with the Royals here a little bit. Everybody in the lineup is relatively cheap too, which is a bonus. Jonathan India at 33.29, still getting on at a 331 clip, which is all he really needs to do. 88 WRC plus obviously needs to climb, and it should given the 341 xWOBA. Maybe just moderate contact, but does not strike out, draws plenty of walks. He's in play at 29.33. You just want him at second base, so the DK positioning is fine. Bobby Witt at 55.38 is one of the high-end shortstops that I had in mind before when I said, you want to get a high-end shortstop a lot of the time. 8 home runs, 21 steals, at 337 on base, creating runs 16% better than average, and we know there's a lot more to come from Bobby Witt. Michael Garcia in my Yahoo league, in that season long, in that dynasty league, he's ranked like 40-something now. That's just the stupid player rater. We use OPS, not average, but he's got a 309 average. Hit 7 home runs, stolen 15 bags. Carrying a 846 OPS right now. 136 WRC plus. 44.1% hard hits. Barrels are up from last year and the year before, which is one of the things we keyed in on way back at the beginning of the season, is one of the things that needs to climb for him to realize his growth potential. And he's done that. But he could push that even a little bit further and capitalize on more power that is in there. But very low strikeout at 14%. Push the walk rate up to 8.7, which is helping me on base. Tons of stolen base ability. He's got 15 on this season. Really interesting fantasy player. 4,500, 3,100 with 3 position eligibility on FanDuel. Take advantage. Vinny, 4,000, 2,900 across sites. After that terrible start, he has re-emerged over the last 6, 7, 8 weeks now. He's up to 275, 330, 417 with 10 home runs, 7.5% barrels, 44.7% hard hits. Looks a whole hell of a lot like that guy. 17% strikeouts and continuing to come down toward his 12-8, 11-9 the last 2 seasons. He's a very, very good hitter. He's still cheap on both sites. 7.46 in the home run model. Definitely a guy who can capitalize against this pitcher. Sal Perez at 31.28. 6 home runs, a really lousy year so far from Sal. 344 xWOBA is a flotation device we can cling to. So is the 13% barrels, the 45.2% hard hits. Those obviously go together, but there is life in Sal Perez. He's not dead in the water like a lot of the struggling hitters are. He just had some bad results. Jack Caglianone, 54.1% hard hits, 10.8% barrels over his first 48 plate appearances. Yet to find his first home run, but it's coming, especially if he continues making contact like that. Could land on the board tonight. Drew Waters, John Rave, Kyle Isbell to save time down lineup. Everybody down there is a mix and match piece. 80, 64, and 81 WRC plus. You want one of those guys at most in any given Kansas City stack. Rangers against Seth Lugo. Lugo's on the board for pitching. Another guy who checks in with a below average strikeout rate at 18.5%, but capable of giving us depth. Pitches against a relatively okay walk rate at 7.8% this year. He's led to a 3.180 ERA, a 4.17 xFIP. These are Seth Lugo-ish kind of numbers. He's fine, but not overly appealing. You're more just looking to target the Rangers and their general struggles throughout the season. You're looking for 7 innings out of Lugo. Last year, 206 and 2/3 in 33 starts, pitched to a 3.0 ERA, but a 3.83 xFIP. Was better for strikeout to walk, 21.7 against 5.7% walks. Those attributes were strong the year before as well, 23.2 against 6%. So he's lost a little bit in those departments this year. Hasn't been peak form Lugo, but at 78-87, especially on DraftKings, you could throw a few darts at it if you were compelled to. Evan Carter at 41.35. Differently priced across sites for sure. FanDuel's probably got it right. 13% barrels in the small sample, 72 plate appearances, hit 4 homers, stolen 5 bases, 281, 361, 516 with a 234 ISO, creating runs 49% better than average with a whole lot of prospect pedigree. Evan Carter's really interesting against a middle of the board righty. Wyatt Langford for 46-34 has 13 home runs, 11 steals. Kind of scuffling as far as the slash line's concerned, but a 349 xWOBA should improve that. 12.9% barrels, 48.2% hard hits. Remains one of their most interesting hitters. Corey Seager is really cheap at 43.31. It's getting silly. Yeah, he's slashing just 238, 329, 391, a 152 ISO, 6 home runs on the board, but that comes against 14.5% barrels, 51.3% hard hits. He's just got a 152 ISO on those numbers, but a 387 xWOBA under the covers. I'm betting on the contact. I'm betting on the player that I've known over the last couple seasons. The 387 xWOBA. Upside to come for sure. Take advantage of the cheap pricing if you're going Rangers. Marcus Semien back up higher in the lineup in the cleanup role. 35, 3,000 across sites. Kind of leveled. 224, 305, 336. The on base getting back above 300 is appealing. Is a nice sign anyway. Just a 112 ISO. Just 7 home runs with all the struggles early in the year, but he's found his way through. He's been notably better over the last 100 or so plate appearances. Adolis Garcia, after the mental health days, has been notably better. That was just a couple weeks ago, so we're only at 227, 273, 391, 8 home runs, 7 steals, 84 WRC plus. Hasn't manifested in the full season line yet. But where's that stretch? Over the 28 plate appearances since that 4 days off, 333, 393, 625. Creating runs 79% better than average. 1 home run, 4 doubles, a stolen base. I think most importantly, even more important than the 292 ISO, because he's been mashing baseballs. I think most importantly, 10.7% strikeouts, 10.7% walks over that stretch. Tiny, meaningless 28 plate appearance sample, but at least nice to see actual results for having given him a few days to clear his head or inject his veins, whatever he's doing. I don't care. 33.29 for that hitter when he's got, even with the struggles, that barrel rate and that hard hit rate, which are in line with expectations. I am a big believer in Garcia when I can get him at those prices. Last year in a down season, he hit 25 home runs, stole 11 bases. The year before in an up season, he hit 39 home runs, stole 9 bases. In the 5 years, including last year, before this season, he averaged 30 home runs. Dude can hit. Alejandro Osuna is cheap, 21-24, hasn't done anything in 33 plate appearances. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, there's some quality there, though. 2 home runs, 9 steals, 279, 386, 416 in his 184 before getting the call. Is also only 22 years old. So a growing player. Most of those plate appearances came in AA, kind of mostly skipped AAA. Made 38 plate appearances in AAA and then got the call. So probably a little bit early. Not surprising to see him scuffle. But an interesting enough kid as far as putting the ball in play. Jake Berger, 10 home runs on the board. Maybe a little bit of a return to form for him as well. Hasn't really been missing as far as the premium contact numbers go. It's just been a lot of weak results from Berger compared to what the home run pace we're used to seeing him on. For the month of June, and we're only on June 17th, Berger's hit 3 home runs, 222 ISO, 22.8% Ks against 5.3% walks, 278, 316, 500, 353 WOBA under the covers, actual WOBA, not expected. 14.1% barrels, 51.5% hard hits for the full season. Yeah, he's struggled for sure. The on base is still ugly. But there's definite appeal there if we're trying to home run hunt a little bit here. And Lugo's been giving them up. 4.27% home runs allowed so far. 9.2% barrels. Tons of hard hits. 91.3 miles an hour of exit velo. Jake Berger's an ideal hitter to throw at Seth Lugo. Jonah Heim, Ezekiel Duran down lineup. Heim is an interesting cheap catcher option. Can put decent bat on ball. 7 home runs in 190 chances. He's infrequent contributor, but when he can contribute, it can be loud. Ezekiel Duran, just a mix and match player. I'll side with the run totals. I'll say Rangers bats, Royals bats. I think that might be reversed on the stacks board, though. I do like the Royals here. I'll ride with how they came out. Royals bats, then Rangers bats. Not that it matters. And then probably Lugo over Jack Leiter, even though they project exactly the same. If you need the salary savings and you have to, for some reason, roster a pitcher from this game, feel free to take shots at Jack Leiter at 6,900. Limited option, but loosely playable in that weird scenario. The now extremely young Red Sox and their rebuild on the fly team going up against Brian Wu, another tremendous Seattle pitcher. Neither lineup is in for this one. Wu pitching to a 3.39 ERA, 3.60 xFIP, 22.1% strikeouts against a sparkling 3.7% walk rate, a sub-1 whip, 10.4% swinging. He's given up a little bit of premium contact this year, 3.37% home runs, not outside of expectations with Wu. Last year it was 2.97 on fewer barrels, but a similar launch, similar numbers as far as the hard hit, the exit velo. Nothing atrocious about the 3.37. Was very good last year, 21.4% strikeouts against 2.8% walks, 2.89 ERA. A 3.75 xFIP was a notably higher xFIP while still being manageable. Was at a 0.9 whip for all of last season, 11.4% swinging. He has lost a little bit in terms of the CSW. It's down about 4 percentage points, but it hasn't cost him really anywhere. So we're perfectly fine. 95-93 would buy against the Red Sox at a 3.31 implied total. Buehler is problematic, I think. 5.01 ERA, but a 4.01 xFIP is at least, somewhat interesting. 20.9% K, 7.4% walk. Just kind of adequate in those numbers. 4.51% home runs against a hard-hitting Seattle team. 10.1% barrels allowed. The home runs have come in spite of a good hard hit rate, a good management of exit velocity at just 87.3 miles an hour. But we went through the game log earlier when I stumbled and said that he had been rounding into form. It was really just one decent start last time out. 7 innings against Tampa Bay, struck out 7, walked 1, but allowed a home run, allowed 3 earned runs, 6 hits. It's just okay. For a cheap price, could he go out there and replicate that outing against Seattle tonight? Absolutely. No reason to think he couldn't give up that exact same outing. Handful of hits, 3 runs, 7 Ks, 6, 7 strikeouts, a walk or 2. Perfectly fine for the money that plays on DraftKings at 7. Loosely in play on FanDuel at 8. A little bit more problematic to the FanDuel board. I think I'm more interested in Mariners bats than I am in Walker Buehler or Red Sox bats. But I think I'm most interested in Brian Wu out of this game. Looking at the Sox, if this is the version of the lineup that we get, I believe this is just based on what we had last night with the reconfigured team. Roman Anthony hitting third, went deep for the first time in his career last night. 4,000, 2,500. Pretty mediocre over 23 plate appearances so far, but let's give him a minute. Kid was one of the top prospects in baseball. Speed, power, everything you could possibly want for fantasy. Very cheap. Could hit the ground running after this. Jarren Duran for 45.32 is an interesting option, even in spite of a weak 339 plate appearances this year. Still creating runs 2% better than average, 5 homers, 14 steals. It's just lost his running mate up at the top of the lineup. It might have a bit of an ongoing impact on him. Abraham Toro has had a good 110 plate appearances. It's probably just the best 110 plate appearances you'll ever see out of him, but playable if he's hitting second. Switch hitter for a cheap price up at the top with multi-position eligibility has its place. But again, Woo is tremendous. Carlos Narvaez, 36.28. Pricing doesn't really reflect the quality of this year. 12.4% barrels, 45.3% hard hits, 6 home runs, and 213 chances. Not a bad catcher investment. But again, you're not really looking to target Brian Woo here. Marcelo Mayer, 3,000, 2,600, 3 home runs in his 58 chances so far, 226 ISO. The power has been real. Everything else has been kind of waiting to arrive. But another player we really got to give him a minute to find his form. At least he's hitting with that power stroke right now. Trevor Story, good barrels, good hard hits, limited results, 9 homers, 11 steals. There are reasons to go there if you're stacking up Red Sox, 35-27 to get to the shortstop who hits the ball hard. Not a bad way to go about it. But again, not really looking to target Woo. Hamilton, Rafaela, Campbell going down the lineup. Hamilton's just a mix and match guy. Rafaela gives you hard hits, barrels, limited output, but okay for counting stats. 6 home runs, 10 steals. Another year where he's done that, but still 12 points below average for run creation. And then Campbell struggling over the last month and change, 90 WRC plus. He'll figure it out eventually. The Mariners with JP Crawford still lingering at cheap pricing. 3,800, 2,900. He's hit 6 home runs. He's getting on base at a 412 clip over 293 plate appearances. He's created runs 47% better than average. I don't know what's not to like here. 18.1% strikeouts, 16.4% walks. Yeah, that's in play. And it's perfectly fine to use him at shortstop at those cheap prices. Helps you average down the pricing for a very affordable Julio Rodriguez at 5,000, 3,400. Julio's got 10 homers, 12 steals. Limited as far as the output goes, but I expect a tremendous second half from him. I just think he's that player. Cal Raleigh at 59.43 with 26 home runs, one of your league leaders in home runs, a 347 ISO, one of the league leaders in that department. Power for days, tremendous option at the catcher spot for the money on either price. Even with the hefty price tag, he's probably better in stacks where you can help average it down and buy some correlation for that. But perfectly functional in any role at the catcher spot. Jorge Polanco, Randy Arozarena, Rowdy Tellez, 3 really appealing players. Polanco kind of returned to form, 11 home runs, 261, 307, 467. We talked about Arozarena and all his positive attributes with Gunn yesterday. Getting on base at a killer clip, stealing bases, still mashing baseballs in terms of premium contact. 8 home runs and a 159 ISO don't really reflect the premium contact that he's made. A lot of upside for Arozarena at the cheap pricing. Rowdy, 16% barrels, 48% hard hits, 11 home runs on the board, 231 ISO this season. Just a guy who you're just looking to for some cheap power upside. 9.48 against a gettable version of Walker Buehler that's allowing all that premium contact and power. I'm a buyer on the Rowdy Tellez shares. If I'm going Mariners, I'm really focused in. Let's do it as a 4-man. That's difficult on FanDuel, honestly. I think on FanDuel, I probably do actually bypass Crawford because I want to get Julio and Cal for sure. And I think I want Randy and just lead right into Tellez. And I think I would look at it like that. But Jorge Polanco at second base is incredibly appealing for 28. JP Crawford at short for 29. Either one of those guys can easily slot in for whichever of those players you're out there saying, oh, why would you play that guy? Put one of the other 2 in there. There's a really good 6-man group, and they're not expensive. Average price for the 6 guys is $32.17. On DraftKings, you can obviously extend that a little bit, which is great. Weirdly, as much as I would want to just start like that, there is an argument to be made for as tremendous as Cal Raleigh is to go like this and just keep that price low. That's a $3,800 average. And you get JP Crawford, Julio Rodriguez, Polanco, Arosarena, and Rowdy Tellez. Yes, you're leaving Cal Raleigh on the table on the site that requires you to play a catcher, but just take any of the myriad cheaper catcher options with not similar upside, but with upside of their own. And like you're balancing that, right? You make a sacrifice, but you're going to get a lot in return for what you do there. The straightforward version of that, though, if you just go like that, you're only at 4,500 exactly for just the straight line top 5. Let's say you do this and skip Arosarena and take Rowdy. You're at 4,220 a piece for the 5-man. Down lineup, Dominic Canzone, Ben Williamson, Cole Young, mix and match pieces galore down there. 112 WRC plus over just 28 plate appearances for Canzone. We've seen him hit a little bit in the show. Last year, 11.1% barrels, 43.6% hard hits. Year before, 12, 142.6. Those came in 188 plate appearances, over which he hit 8 home runs, but with sub Mendoza, sub 300 on base. 185 ISO, though. 6 home runs in 182 chances the year before on that contact. 179 ISO, 220, and way below 300 on base. Just a 79 WRC plus, but a 179 ISO. Not a nothing spot, but everybody above him is more appealing. The guys below him are less appealing. Brian Wu, Mariners bats. Walker Buehler for a cheap price as just a very limited dart on DraftKings. Probably wouldn't go there on FanDuel. And then the Red Sox bats. Monty said, Carlos Soto, before we do that, Carlos Soto calling out, hit the like button, subscribe, hit those things. Most of the people here, I'm sure, have already done that. A lot of you guys are regulars. I get it. I get why it's been a little bit of a crawl, but do me the favor. Tell your friends, you succeed, you win a couple bucks, shout it out on Twitter. That helps. We do need to grow the community a little bit. Would certainly help with the bills. So Monty asks, Buehler, McCullers, or Sandy Alcantara, which Tommy John pitcher most likely to finish season and regain prior form? McCullers just went back on the IL again. I think it was an ankle. I would probably not say him, given how absent he's been and how injury prone. Buehler, I feel like we were already a little bit, and maybe it was attributable to the impending injury that eventually happened. But I feel like we were already kind of coming back down the mountain with him. So we'll see where he gets to, but I wouldn't really bank on him. The one I would kind of bank on is Sandy. I think Sandy finds form. If nothing else, I think he gets his depth back. And a lot of his quality in a lot of those starts came from depth. Was just pitching 7, 8, 9 innings every start. So he racked up stats just kind of via attrition in terms of total strikeouts. Was never like a tremendous strikeout pitcher in terms of like the rate, the percentage. That is not what I wanted to do at all. Why did that pop up? I just think he's got, like, this year, 4.14 ERA, a 4.0 xFIP, 19.8% Ks against the 6.3% walk, was inducing a 12.3% swinging strike rate. The year before, his Cy Young season, 23.4% strikeouts, was tremendous that year. Not arguing with the quality. 2.28 ERA, a 3.29 xFIP, 23.4 against a 5.6% walk is fantastic, but did gain in all of his totals by the virtue of pitching 228 2/3 in his 32 starts. You can see how that fell off the following year, and then he missed all of last year, and now he's this guy. I just think in terms of, one, Stuff Plus still loves the arsenal, so some of those pitches are really working. And just two, he's kind of, in a way, got further to climb to regain who he used to be versus the other two. So my money would be on Sandy. If I'm trading, probably be for Sandy. Speaking of trading, Mr. Devers in the projected. Let's see if we got the confirm. We do not. Monster upgrade for these Giants. Slotting in as a third baseman on DraftKings and FanDuel right now, which is not problematic because we've got multiple first basemen on this team already, and we don't have Matt Chapman in the lineup. They're going to get that figured out. Rafi's not going to play third on this team once Chapman's back. He might for a few games to start out. He's also talking about playing first, which would be fine right now because they don't have a real first baseman on this team, despite guys being DFS eligible for it. But it is a positional blocker for their top prospect and one of the top prospects in all of baseball, Bryce Eldridge, which is going to be really interesting to see how that shakes out. But if Rafi gains first base eligibility for DFS, just makes it a little bit better, because if they leave him just at third and he just DHs and all his positional quality that we have for him on DK conflicts with Chapman, that's going to be problematic when Chapman's back. Not an issue today. 5,200, 3,800. Impact from the ballpark a little bit, but Devers is one of the 10 best hitters in baseball, if not better. 15 home runs on the season, 16.2% barrels, 55.6% hard hits. We get to throw him at Slate Ciccone, who putting up okay numbers, 4.26 ERA, but a 3.81 xFIP under the covers, 25.7% strikeouts in his 5 starts, 12.8% swinging strikes against 30.4% CSW. Tremendous. But look at the premium contact he's allowed in that same stretch. Small sample, sure, but 18.1% barrels on a 17.6 degree average launch, 47.2% hard hits, 93 miles an hour of exit velo. That is problematic, and it is no surprise that he's at 5% home runs. Last year, nearly 5% home runs on not as aggressive premium contact, but too many barrels at 10.3, similar fly ball trajectory. Year before, in a small sample, was okay, but gave up similar premium contact, so probably lucky to be sub 4 in those 4 starts. At 76, at 81, given the strikeout ability, he is at least a dart on this slate. A little bit of bump from the ballpark for sure, but it's a dangerous lineup on the other side, and he is not a top-end pitcher with that kind of contact allowed. And then there's Robbie Ray, 10,300, 10,700 across sites, striking out 28.1, but still walking 10.1%. I want to make sure everybody's paying attention to that. 2.55 ERA, but a 3.59 xFIP. 13.8% swinging strikes, but only a 28.8% CSW. You got to call that out against that monster swinging strike rate. As good as he's been, he's still allowing 44.6% hard hits on a 15.3 degree average launch. 91.1 miles an hour of exit velo. Those numbers are aggressively above our problem threshold. The one thing he's managed effectively this year is barrels, 7.4%. It's led to just 1.83% home runs. Ballpark helps with that somewhat, and some good fortune on his side this year. 98.09 by Stuff Plus. Even Stuff Plus doesn't really love the arsenal. It's down several points from last year. You can see all the home runs he allowed last year, all the walks, even against a higher strikeout rate. Even back when he was good, as we've highlighted before. 8%, or when he was previously good. 8% walks against 27.4% strikeouts. Similar swinging strikes to CSW numbers. 4.13% home runs on very similar premium contact. There is a big glaring downside every time Robbie Ray takes the mound. He's just gotten through it incredibly effectively for the most part this season. Guardians are good enough to beat him. He's good enough to beat them. They check in with a 26.4% strikeout rate that I'm going to use as the tiebreaker and say that I prefer Robbie Ray a little bit to the Guardians. They are flashing some power upside, which is worth noting. Starting at the top of the Cleveland lineup, 4,200 is an effective price for Steven Kwan, who just gets on base, sets the table for the rest of these guys. 126 WRC plus, 6 homers and 9 steals. He's okay for counting stats, but we want him as a table setter. Doesn't strike out, draws enough walks to be a problem for Robbie Ray. David Fry, 13.53 in the home run model today to lead this team. That's kind of out of nowhere. He's barreled the ball 10% of the time, 60% hard hits in his plate appearances over 20, or his batted balls over 26 plate appearances. 1 home run on the board so far this season. Flashed some pop last year. Whoops. 14 home runs in 392 chances with an okay enough slash line. 185 ISO. There's a little bit of pop there. Jose Ramirez at 55-37. High priority play if you're going anything Guardians. You want Jose Ramirez to be a part of it. 10.41 in the home run model for him, given the way the bat bounces off of his ball. That's the ball bounces off of his bat. That's entirely believable. 13 home runs, 20 steals on the season. Carlos Santana at 36-28, entirely playable. The performance kind of comes and goes. depending on the week, but he's always going to be low strikeout, high walk, on base, correlated scoring. He's hit 8 home runs, just a 130 ISO, but a 109 WRC plus, making good, not great contact, 6.5% barrels, 44.6% hard hits. Lane Thomas yet to barrel a ball in 83 plate appearances, kind of concerning there for the output, 162, 229, 216. Not the player we saw 2 years ago, but still an interesting guy when he's this cheap to throw into the mix from the right side against a lefty who can get nailed from time to time. Gabriel Arias, good power upside, 9.2% barrels. He's only hit 4 home runs in 246 chances, has just a 122 ISO, but does have a very real capability to hit the ball hard. Bo Naylor, 12+% barrels, 9 home runs, but a sub Mendoza, sub 300 averaging on base, 98 WRC plus. Jonathan Rodriguez, very cheap in the outfield, 21 on both sides from the right side of the plate. That's we looked at him yesterday, 2 days ago. In 508 AAA plate appearances as a 24-year-old last year, 29 home runs. Year before, 29 home runs as a 23-year-old in 565. Just at the upper cusp of where you'd want him age-wise, but demonstrable power, at least in the minors. Plenty of strikeouts to feed Robbie Ray's upside, but you give that kid an opportunity to get good wood on the ball, and it might travel. Maybe sneaky down lineup for the Guardians, if he's in the lineup at all. Angel Martinez is a mix and match quality player, 4 home runs, 4 steals, over 202 chances. In the Giants lineup, sub 4 implied total for them against Ciccone too is something worth pointing out. So given the strikeout upside, given the lack of belief in Vegas, the ballpark, maybe Ciccone's a little bit more even on the board than I was giving him credit for. Jung-Hoo Lee, though, 4,500, 3,100, slashing 265, 327, 433, an effective run creator with a 114 WRC plus, a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed. Willie Adames has been really disastrous for this team. Been a big part of the problem. 77 WRC plus, 8 home runs, 3 steals, 201, 284, 340. I said big part of the problem. This team is contending in spite of their big acquisition in the offseason doing this. He's very cheap. He's got an 11.11 against all that premium contact that Ciccone allows. He's on my board if I'm playing Giants for sure. He remains a high priority bat for sure against this pitcher. Devers is the top priority in this lineup now, but Elliot Ramos is right next to him. 11.9% barrels, 44.5% hard hits, 11 home runs, a tremendous slash line over 306 plate appearances. It's my second highest priority Giants bat. Then we kind of fall off around the edges. Dom Smith has had an okay 42 plate appearances, but I mean, couldn't make the team with the Yankees and moved around quite a bit over the last few years. We see stretches like this every now and then. He's a capable enough hitter, but lacks the general upside that we're really hunting for. 33-27. He's fine at first base, but not overly appealing. Casey Schmidt, kind of similar, 3 home runs in 81 plate appearances, mix and match quality upside. Yastrzemski going back to the left side is kind of interesting, though. 8.6% barrels, 40.7% hard hits, just 5 home runs in 248 chances, has been better for power. 18 homers in 474 last year, just 15 in 381 year before, 17 in 558 year before that. So always like mid-board type power, and has put better bat on ball in those seasons. So we get upside out of Yaz, 4,000, 2,800 again against a righty, giving up that kind of premium contact in a small sample and demonstrable contact year before. Definitely appealing for those prices. Tyler Fitz, I'm always interested. Having a mediocre season, over 186 plate appearances, but had a good stretch last year. Mix and match quality with a little bit of multi-position upside for a cheap price. Andrew Neisner, 1 home run on the board, capable of putting bat on ball, but limited down lineup. You're just cheap catcher hunting at that point. 2,300 is playable. 2,200 on FanDuel. He's mostly skippable over there. Robbie Ray. Giants bats. Nah, I'll give it to Ciccone. Why not? Robbie Ray, cheap slate Ciccone, Giants bats, Guardians bats. Oddly, all 4 things are kind of in play for me, though. I wouldn't take any one of those 4 things out of a lineup. Monster spot for offense lurking here. Michael Knack was his whistles go woo, shouting at a very good DFS player. Whole bunch of text messages coming in. 573 implied total on the A side, 540 implied total on the Athletics side. We talked about JP Sears quite a bit yesterday with Gunn, 508 ERA, a 446 xFIP. Kind of around the edges, there's a reasonable enough strikeout rate against that low walk rate, but just the premium contact is going to kill him in this ballpark against a heavily right-handed Astros lineup that does have power, that does have upside. It's just a problem spot. 67 is a dart on DraftKings from the bottom of the bargain bin. 76 on FanDuel. I just don't think you go there. Jason Alexander, again, I think we're good for 5 here. Went down to the minors, got stretched out over his last 3 outings, 6 innings, and 4 2/3. In the 4 2/3 game, he struck out 7, walked 4, gave up 7 hits. So an adequate number of pitches to make it believable that he goes 5, if all goes to plan, 5+. But I wouldn't expect things to really necessarily go to plan here. In his relief work so far this year, a 14% strikeout rate, a 14% walk rate, an 18 ERA, which is pretty high. Just a third of that by xFIP, but still a 6.55 xFIP. Seems pretty targetable. 20% barrels, 15.1 degree average launch, 95.3 miles an hour of exit velo is just ridiculous. 8.57% home runs. Obviously, we're being a little bit unfair, and it's worth noting that all of those home runs, it's 3, came in the same game. It was a just complete meltdown against the Dodgers. 2 1/3, 9 earned runs on 3 home runs in to 18 hitters, 7 hits, 1 strikeout, and 4 walks. 3-run day against the Mets over an inning in 2/3. But those were the only 3 home runs. The other 2 relief outings were clean, but just not a ton of upside here. Against the Athletics, when they're showing this much upside for runs, 3 guys above the magic number for power with another few guys lurking around that territory, including Nick Kurtz, who hit his 7th home run in 133 chances. And remember, it took him like 50-something to find the first one. He's been on fire. 2,800 on both sites. Too cheap against this pitcher. 14.1% barrels, 50% hard hits, just kind of fitting right in with the guys who have been on this team longer. That's a pretty aggressively good stretch of real power right there. Lawrence Butler up at the top, no slouch himself. And then one of the best pure hit tools in baseball right now with Jacob Wilson hitting second. It's a really interesting A's lineup. I'm just leaning them over Jason Alexander any way you cut it. Same thing, Astros over JP Sears. With the Stros, they're fairly affordable. I very easily clicked them together with the Yankees in a placeholder lineup and got to all the bats I wanted. Jeremy Pena, 46-32, affordable at shortstop, 9 home runs, 15 steals in the best season of his life, over 306. If the final 300 and change plate appearances look anything like this, it's going to end up being a very good year, and I'm going to be very wrong about this hitter. I do still think in general he's more just an average bat, but he's defying me at every turn so far. Very much in play. He's in my placeholder lineup. Isaac Paredes at 43-34, differently priced across sites. DraftKings missing the boat for a guy who gets on base a ton, draws tons of walks, doesn't strike out, 351 on base. He's hit 15 home runs. I would imagine this ballpark, I'm not even going to bother. Minor league ballpark, it's got to play okay for his power. Jose Altuve at 4,000, 3,000. He's up to 11 home runs. Slashing 274, 321, 433 now. A 112 WRC plus. Still concerned about that xWOBA. Still some flaws around the edges. But this is like suddenly after the last 200-ish plate appearances or 150 plate appearances, it's suddenly looking like it might turn into an okay or to good Jose Altuve season. Not dead in the water. Weirdly, because I thought he was gone a couple weeks ago. 8.01 in the home run model. Walker, still a believer. 13.3% barrels, 46.1% hard hits, 9 home runs on the season, leading the team with an 11.57 from the right side against a weak lefty in this ballpark. There's tons of home run upside around Christian Walker. I still expect him to get right. Those barrels and hard hits are not off the mark. It's just the strikeouts have been problematic. Maybe he needs glasses like Max Muncy did. Jainer Diaz at 33-28. Slowly creeping up the ladder for his positive attributes coming around. The strikeouts, the walks around where they should be. The hard hits and the barrels around where they should be. It's just results. Results have been a problem, but he does have 9 home runs on the season now. A 341 xWOB under the covers is perfectly comforting, telling us that he's going to continue to climb. Jake Myers, mix and match quality, having a good year in terms of the batting average, the on base, a little bit of correlated scoring ability at a 118 WRC plus. Cam Smith can definitely hit the ball hard, but that's about all he's doing right now. Mauricio Dubon, Brendan Rodgers, mix and match quality at the bottom of the lineup. 45-33 for Lawrence Butler, considering his 10 home runs, his 11 steals, the way he finished last season, the tremendous barrels and hard hits. He's an an appealing player at those prices in the outfield. This A's team is not completely cheap, but they're also not expensive. They're more expensive, it looks like, on FanDuel by a slight margin. Right? It's not getting all these guys in the mid fours. If you just straight line that, it's a $4,500 average, which is entirely playable. And you can do this to bring it down to $4,280. So for their quality, I think they're fine. It's just man for man. These are not broken prices by any means. They're fair, but they're also not the necessarily easiest 4-man group to reach. Once you put all 4 of them together, I'm saying. Wilson is slashing 362, 396, 506 with 8 home runs, 5 steals, a 157 WRC plus. They did a deep dive with him on Central this morning. It's worth watching if you DVR'd Central, if you just can call it up on demand or whatever. Just really interesting dive into this hitter who's carrying a 6.2% strikeout, 4.8% walk this season. Ludicrous numbers. Brent Rooker for 47-34, 15 home runs, monster power, has improved, taken another big leap forward, 28.8% strikeouts down to 20.7. I would have thought I would have laughed at you 2 years ago if you had told me he was going to do that. Getting on base like crazy, creating runs at a 138 clip, 216 ISO, monster bat. Tyler Soder's from first base and outfield eligible at a fair price on both sides. 14 homers for him this season, getting on at a 342 clip, 372 on xWOBA, 202 ISO. Major bat. Didn't fix Max Muncy. So annoying. His stats are going to go away because I forgot to put him in the stats board again. This Max Muncy, 2,800 at third on DraftKings, 2,600 at multiple positions on the FanDuel slate. A little bit of pop in the bat, certainly playable in your A's stacks. Lower priority than Kurtz or anybody above Muncy in the lineup here. Probably for me, lower priority than Urias for a similar price at second base too. Urias has hit 7 home runs. He's going to be the lower owned out of the 2. Perfectly cheap, fits in at second or third on FanDuel. Kurtz, I mentioned, has 7 home runs already. 218 ISO, and this is just him fulfilling his massive potential, 14.1% barrels. Willie McIver and Denzel Clark. Denzel Clark has made some ludicrous catches. He's been okay with the bat, 209, 232, 284 is nothing to write home about, but 9.1% barrels, 42.4% hard hits. Maybe something to watch there. McIver has done nothing so far. Astros bats, A's bats right behind him. Really neither pitcher, but would probably trust JP Sears a little bit more, even with the incredibly obvious downside that comes with. Last game up. We've got the opener follower situation in this one that we talked about way back at the beginning of the show. Jack Dreyer opening for the Dodgers. Whoops. We will see what the Padres do lineup-wise. It's a lefty opener and then a righty follower. So who knows? That's going to change this lineup out when I switch those guys. So look at these numbers and fix them in your minds. Right? And really, when we're talking about this team, it's really about those 5 guys. And they're going to be in the lineup. So look where those guys are against Dreyer. Everybody at respectable numbers. Well over the power mark. Right in line with it. Good enough for government work for Merrill. Sheets could be a little bit higher, honestly. Lefty for him, though. All right, so you got those. Now we're going to go over here. We're going to go to the bulk reliever, Matt Sauer. And we see that we take a little bit of a jump. More power on the board for Tatis. More power on the board for Manny. Similar for Sheets. This lineup, for whatever reason, doesn't have Jackson Merrill in it. He probably just missed their last game against a righty, and that's what Labs used on the site. Is Merrill banged up again? That's what it is. Merrill's hurt. That's right. Concussion. I forgot about that. So that's why he popped up when I changed it. The projected lineup that we have from Labs that is up on our website as well today is this one against the righty. But he won't be in that lineup even when you switch it to the other one. So looking down the Padres lineup, 51-38. But by the way, I think that leads us to no Dodgers pitching. Sauer, not worth it in a bulk relief role, and Dreyer, not going to give you any kind of depth for your money. Tatis, 51, 38, 13 homers, 15 steals, ideal for DFS purposes. He's a superstar. He's honestly a pretty affordable superstar at those prices, too. Creating runs 36% better than average. He's hitting the ball hard. Not exactly sure why we're getting a little bit of a discount there. Luis Ariz at 36-28, really not having a Luis Ariz kind of a season, just wildly miscast in that 2 spot. I'll continue saying that all year. Not really giving you enough in terms of what he's supposed to be doing with batting average, getting on base, setting the table to really justify his existence at first base on DraftKings. If you want him at second base for 28 on FanDuel, I can get on board, but first base, that's problematic on DraftKings. Manny Machado at 53-36 has 11 homers, a tremendous 299 plate appearances, hitting the ball like the Manny Machado of old. Love the option. If I'm going Padres, he's my second click behind Tatis. And I think he's a reasonable enough one-off, honestly, to use at a high price, 53-36. No favors there. But if you just got third base open with a little bit of money to spend, or if you got a lineup that could go to a 4-3 configuration FanDuel, a 5-2-1 configuration on DraftKings, use a one-off because you got money left over after you use some of this cheap pitching. Machado is on the board for sure. 10.47 in the home run model. Against either pitcher, he's got upside. Gavin Sheets, good season so far. 12 home runs, 213 ISO, a 351 xWOB under the covers, 53.8% hard hits, 10.4% barrels. He's been good, and he's cheap. 3,400, 3,000. First base or outfield, either way. Bogey, Cronenworth, both moderate quality mix and match veterans who are getting on base at a good enough clips. 79 WRC plus for Bogey, but 13 stolen bases. 119 WRC plus in a smaller sample for Cronenworth. 5 home runs, just 1 stolen base, but getting on base more. Either way you want to go with 2 very similarly priced and similarly performing players. I think I'm choosing one of those guys. Probably on DraftKings for 33, I'll just slot Cronenworth in at second base and get a better shortstop. On FanDuel, I might go the other way with that and take Bogey at second base since he's got that eligibility over there. I just think slightly more of him as a player, but it might also just be a little bit of bias. Trenton Brooks, Tyler Wade, Elias Diaz, just mix and match quality down the board. Tyler Wade, not much of a hitter. Diaz, 4 home runs every now and then. You can get a little bat on ball. Brooks, 270 plate appearances. Keep in mind, a 29-year-old in AAA, but 14 home runs, 311, 411, 590. Hit 10 in 407 chances last year, hit 22 in 523 chances with Oakland and San Francisco. Excuse me, Cleveland, Oakland, and Oakland and San Francisco in 2023. 11 home runs in Cleveland in 340 plate appearances in AAA. Since he's 29 and about to turn 30 by the end of this month, or the beginning of next month, actually, on the 3rd, I'm going to say he's probably just a quad A player. Maybe you get a little bit out of him for the cheap price. If I'm saying Luis Ariz is kind of a scratch for me at first base, if he's in the lineup, that's an okay alternative given the savings at 21 at 2,000 on FanDuel. If you just want to use first base from this team, it's probably the way I'd play it. Obviously, you get more correlated scoring opportunities out of Ariz, but there's a visible downside. And if I can buy maybe some premium contact and power upside, worth considering. On the Dodgers side, 5.98 implied total against Randy Vasquez, or what's lingering of Randy Vasquez. You could take a corpse and put it in the Dodgers uniform and put it on the mound, and you probably get just as much quality out of it. 3.57 ERA, but a 5.61 xFIP. 13.9% strikeouts, and 11.9% walk rate. 11.7% barrels, 41.1% hard hits. He saves the day with exit velo being under the threshold, but the other 2 marks are way over. He's a fly ball pitcher. He's going to give up more home runs in the long term. We've got Shohei Ohtani to throw at him, 15.01 in the home run model. How about Ohtani with his debut just firing 98 after not pitching for a year plus, then coming in, mashing baseballs. 300, 396, 643, 25 homers, 11 steals. You just get him as a position player today. First base and outfield eligible on DraftKings. Mookie, no positional flex on DK, but 5,000 at shortstop, perfectly fine. 3 positions on FanDuel is generous. 9 home runs, 6 steals. The power output hasn't been ideal, but he's still creating runs 17% better than average. He's still Mookie Betts, and you get a little bit of a discount. Freddie at 55-39, entirely justifiable. Monster season so far from him, creating around 66% better than average to lead this team. Will Smith, one of the better hitting catchers in baseball, 321, 424, 95, 6 home runs, a 385 xWOB under the covers, a 159 WRC plus, 10% barrels, 44.8% hard hits, just doing Will Smith things, striking out at 17.7, walking 14.7. Everybody up here walks at in double digits. 3 out of the 4 guys strike out below 20%. One guy extremely below 20%, below 10%, in fact. And the other one is Shohei Ohtani. Kind of unfair up at the top of the lineup. Then they get to Teoscar Hernandez, Max Muncy, Andy Paez. These three guys would be hitting up here on most other teams. Muncy, 12.1% barrels, 9 home runs and 266 chances. Teoscar, 12.4% barrels, 13 home runs and 239 chances. Tremendous options. Andy Paez, 4,032, 13 home runs on the season for him, a 201 ISO. Great season and not priced up enough on DK at 4,000 for what he's done. It's not a situation where it's like, oh, you'd be paying a tax for what he's already done. He's believable at these levels. Michael Conforto, still good wood on the ball, 9.3% barrels, 45% hard hits. It's only resulted in 4 homers, just a 110 ISO. Those numbers do not match this contact. This guy used to be really good. I'm still a buyer at these cheap prices. If I'm going Dodgers, at worst, he helps you average down the price and still has a little bit of power upside. And then Tommy Edmonds is a solid mixer for a fair price, 36-31. At least they're not pricing him like insane people. He does have 10 home runs on the season. I guess he hit another one, but much more like the real version of Tommy Edman that we've seen over the years. And that's how we round things out, gang. Dodgers bats over the Padres bats, but the Padres bats are on the board and no pitching from the late night game at all. I see no reason to go to either one of these pitching situations. How do you like that? What do we do? 250. Yowza. 521 though. We're still well ahead of lock. Plenty of time to get the site updated. Starting from the bottom, we don't want these guys. I think the playability line is probably JP Sears and above. I don't want Sears. I would not play him, but I think he's loosely playable. Kramer, Littell, a little bit more appeal, but you can see they're downboard pretty significantly. But again, like I highlighted at the beginning, there's not a ton of daylight between a 28 and change projection, 29-point projection, and a 23, 24.5 point projection. Or this is essentially 24. That's 24.5. Just under 12 on DraftKings. Those numbers play perfectly fine with all these numbers. So these guys aren't as offset as like the geography of this list might suggest. Leiter's in that same conversation and is cheaper. Shane Smith, I just don't like the pricing on him at 86, 85, and with the cards drawing a 4.9 implied total. Seems shaky, but he's better than advertised. The swinging strikes are real. The ability to check power seems real. I wouldn't expect a tremendous day. I wish he was in the 7s so I could be like, Shane Smith, maybe a little bit sneaky against the bad Cardinals team, blah, blah, blah. It's just not. Walker Buehler's kind of in that camp on FanDuel, but at 7,000 on DraftKings, maybe a few darts against a free swinging Seattle squad in a pitcher's park. Chad Patrick, just no reason to attack the Cubs with Chad Patrick. He's been pitching just fine, but it feels more like a why would you spot. Same thing with Chris Bassett. I just don't want to attack that Diamondbacks lineup with a middle-of-the-board type pitcher. Lugo, I think, maybe a little bit more interesting against the Rangers, but I side with the Rangers bats. 78 on DraftKings is where you want him with the dart throw ability as an SP2. Peterson, just high priced for a matchup against a hard-hitting Braves team that could exploit his downside. But on the right day, he could succeed and succeed in a big way in that spot. Ciccone, as mentioned, 81-76, kind of loosely appealing. It's a high danger spot for sure, but he's been finding the strikeout stuff, if nothing else. Obviously problematic for the premium contact, so there's some give and take there. 81, I wish it was a little bit cheaper. 76 is effective enough from where he lands on this board. Festa in play with ceiling, as we talked about. 75-72 is cheap. Brendan Pfaadt, a lot of problems overall this year. Good pitcher last year. I believe that the talent will eventually win out, or he'll just end up, he was pitching with a broken elbow all year. It's just a bad target for the upside day. Against Toronto, low strikeout team, seems dicey. As mentioned, out of the high-priced pitchers, Andrew Abbott's the guy I think I like the least. Very visible overperformance in just his ERA to xFIP numbers. Pitching in that ballpark against the Twins team that I can get into. 98, 10,000. If he was cheaper, I wouldn't have as big a problem with it. I just feel like his price shouldn't stand out like it does against these other prices. He should just be like right in line here. Ben Brown, very appealing. A lot of downside for sure on the wrong day, but tons of upside. Kid is a future ace. Like I said before, 85, happy to pay it. 74, even happier to pay it. Schwelly, high danger spot against the Mets, but tremendous, very, very good pitcher. For my money, probably the most talented pitcher on the slate, just in one of the tougher matchups overall. Liberatore against the White Sox. Love the spot. Struggled in the last 3. Good numbers overall for the season. Excellent get right spot. 77 is hyper appealing on DraftKings. 91 very much in play on FanDuel. Will Warren, maybe the best spot on the board at 82.75. Could go plunk for sure. Is plunk a sound that gets made when things break? Not really. But when they go underwater, it does. So there you go. Plunk. Coining a new term. Could definitely not work out. There's tons of power in the Angels lineup, but he's got excellent strikeout stuff. Very good swinging strike stuff. He's got the ability to give us 6 upside innings for 82, for 75. It's a very appealing spot. Woo's just a really good pitcher facing a diminished Red Sox lineup in a pitcher's park. There's plenty of appeal there. And Robbie Ray's been the good version of Robbie Ray all year. There's visible downside, but he's getting through it. I have my problems with it. You know I do. 10-7, 10-3. He's projected at the top of the board. I'm not going to take him down. I didn't artificially deflate the projection or anything like that. It just comes with a modicum of danger. Cleveland is good enough to beat Robbie Ray and exploit his downside, given the power that lingers in that lineup. It's a really interesting slate, guys. Addison Barger, your home run pick of the day. Oddball, but going up against Brandon Pfaadt and all the power that he's allowed this season, I didn't want to go to Vladdy. So I went to the other guy who's murdering baseballs this year. Love the upside there. It's an interesting slate. You can go any which way. There are thousands of different scenarios. And obviously, in a literal sense, there are billions of different outcomes for this. But there are so many incredibly believable scenarios for this slate that would not surprise me in any way. It's a much more broad than it is tall pitching slate, but there's a lot of playability. I would say that this is a day, especially on DraftKings, where you really want to stretch out and spread some shares across pitchers. I don't have an incredibly strong lean on a lot of these guys, and a lot of the guys that I do are in the mix at cheap prices that allows you the ability to do that. With that in mind, you guys, thank you as well, Monty, Cujo, Greg Biancone, everybody else within the sound of my voice. I really appreciate you guys. Love every single one of you guys. Anybody who hit the like button, I like you even more. Subscribe button on the YouTube, I like you even more. And if you subscribe for under $1 a day out of your pocket over at rotoscouts.com to access all the upside of these projections, access NBA projections that just won somebody 10 grand last night in a showdown slate, access NHL projections for hopefully not the last hockey game of the season tonight. Let's go Edmonton. Force that game 7. It's been too good a series too to not have a game 7 and one that goes to like crazy OT or something like that. It's a really good hockey series if you're not watching. Those projections are available to you as well. Anthony Follia says show's over. Yes. Been talking for 3 hours, buddy. Show's over. We started early today, bud. Had to get out ahead of a 12 gamer. If I did this length of show at our normal start time, it would be like 7:45 right now. But let me punch out, get the site updated so everybody's got a lot of time to work with all these creative options on a big slate like this. Again, I really encourage everybody to get broad today, explore different combinations, see what works really well with what other teams. If you've got an opportunity to sit with your phone for a half hour and just like hand build different combinations, it can really inform your process, even as like, what we were talking about with Gunn yesterday, where he's just, trusting the machines and taking the results out of those. That's absolutely the right way to do things. You want to trust those tools. But being able to do it from an informed perspective about what clicks together well, what if you see those two teams together in a lineup, does it mean that you've sacrificed something in that lineup that might otherwise be better in a different way? So I think it does pay dividends to sit there and click things together by hand. I do it a lot of times the night before or early in the morning, and it just helps talk through the slate, helps know about the slate, especially on a day like today. Anyway, good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results like Illegal Form Nation did last night with his big basketball victory. Do it in Discord, which is linked for free down in the description, or at rotoscouts Twitter handle. Either way, put those results in front of me. Makes me feel good when you guys do well. I love to see it. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something, and we will see you tomorrow for more of this, gang. Chaotic show today, but a fun one. See ya.